Can you hear me?
Yep, we'll be with you in just a second.
Okay.
All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Nelsonstrom. I'm Governor Evers' Chief Legal Counsel and also have the privilege of serving as Chair of the Governor's Partner Advisory Board. So welcome to our April 22nd, 2022 pardon hearing. We have a busy day before us like we usually do because we have a lot of folks to hear from. So I'm going to go through a few housekeeping items and then we're going to jump right into things. So first of all, we are live streaming this on both Wisconsin Eye, which is Wisconsin's version of C-SPAN, and also on YouTube. So in order to maintain audio quality, please mute yourself until it's your turn to speak. You can do so by clicking on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. There's a little microphone icon. Click on that so that you're muted. We just want to hear from the board members and the person that is appearing before us. In addition, please do the same in terms of your video. That way we only have the board members' videos on and also the person who is appearing before us. You can turn off your video same way as the audio, except for instead of the microphone icon, there's a little phone or a camera icon you can click on. So please do that. I am going to be calling people up in the order in which they're listed on the open meeting notice for today. So we'll be starting with Ulfrika, then Rodney, then Brad, Karen, Morgan, Latoya, Mortez, Matthew, and finally Angela for our 8:30 to 10 a.m. session. If we get done a little bit early, we will be going to a break. When I call you up, please unmute yourself, turn your camera on, and you'll have 5 to 7 minutes to briefly explain how you ended up with a felony conviction. We want to have specifics, first person, in terms of I did this. We don't want to hear just I was young with the wrong people and ended up with a conviction. Something happened between those 2 points. We want to hear about that in your own words. We also want to hear about how your sentence went and why you believe you've earned the chance to receive a pardon. So what you've done since then. So again, please be concise. I will then open it up to the board for questions. If we may or may not have questions for you, don't read too much into it one way or the other if we ask you questions, because we have read your applications already as well. After you are done speaking, feel free to jump off. In fact, everybody does. You do not need to hang around. You can go about enjoying the rest of your Friday and hopefully get an early start on the weekend. After we hear from all the applicants today, we are going to be going into closed session. At that time, the board will vote on whether or not to forward your application to Governor Evers. If your application is forwarded to Governor Evers, he'll make a final decision on whether to grant you a pardon. If the board doesn't vote in favor of your application or Governor Evers rejects it, once he's received it, you'll receive a denial letter from the board. And that usually occurs in about a month from today's date, but it does vary a little bit, and you'll be able to reapply in 18 months from the date of that letter. If you are pardoned, you'll also receive a pardon in about a month to 6 weeks, give or take. And that will come in the mail. And so with that, I am going to be, looks like we're having some issues with our first applicant. So we will actually go to and see if we have Rodney Streck. So Rodney, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Rodney. So you heard my spiel. So the first 5 to 7 minutes are yours in terms of explaining to us how you ended up with your felony conviction, what happened with your sentence, and what you've done since then in order to earn the chance to receive a pardon. So please proceed.
Okay. Yeah, in 2007, I was charged with theft and fraudulent writings. I was working for a feed mill in Door County, and I was charging feed to customers that were on like a COD list, which was against company policy. And so I got convicted of that. I received 6 months in the county jail, which I completed, and I was given 3 years probation plus restitution and court costs. The restitution to the victim was $36,000, of which I paid $17,000 towards it so far, or $17,000 is what is left on the balance. And I have paid the the fines and the district attorney fees and the court costs of $4,289. I've got that all paid. I have a payment arrangement with Door County Co-op of $100 a month, which I've been making for several years now, and I haven't missed any payments on that. I was discharged from probation in October of 2013. So that's basically it.
All right, and I forgot to introduce our board members present. So right now we have, in addition to myself, we have Judge Jeff Kremers, who is a former chief judge in Milwaukee County, and also Nadia Perez Reyes, who is a former public defender and currently the Assistant Deputy Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families.
Okay.
Ronnie, can you talk a little bit more? I mean, you described your crime, but looking at the complaint, it's a little bit more complex than that. Can you just kind of fill me in on just how this actually worked?
Yeah. Well, like on the fraudulent writings, I was keeping track of what the farmers owed us on like on an invoice. So when the farmer got his milk check and wanted to pay his bill, I could, I knew how much he owed us. So I was actually extending credit to customers, which was, my mistake. So that was what they considered as fraudulent writings. Like, for example, like one invoice might have like a bag of dog food on it or a bag of milk replacer. And then when the farmer got his milk check on the 20th of the month, he'd come in and pay his bill, and I would add that to it. So, that was the way I kept track of what farmers owed us. And some of the loads of feed that we hauled to the farmers, if they were on a COD list, I wasn't able to charge to them. So that's why it was considered theft, because we hauled the feed to them even though they hadn't paid for it yet, and I wasn't supposed to do that. So
okay.
Does that explain it better?
Sure.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? All right, well, Jeff?
Hey, good morning, sir. So
Yep.
if I understand what you told us, it's going to take you another 15, 16 years to pay this restitution. Is that right?
Well, if I continue at the $100 a month, but I'm working on trying to get out of debt and trying to free up some more money so I can pay. My goal is to pay it off faster than that. If I happen to get a bonus at work or any extra money, I would like to pay them. I would like to pay it off a lot faster than that.
And why do you want a pardon? What do you need a pardon for?
It's affected my life in many different ways. Like when I've filled out like loan applications or job applications, it's affected like my interest rates and that type of thing. And I would also like to be able to get my gun rights back, because I do enjoy hunting, which I haven't been able to do. And for example, like my wife may consider having a gun for self-protection, in case she needs it. But I don't know. I haven't been in any trouble for the last in the last 15 years, and I've been trustworthy to continue my restitution payments, and I've not missed any payments on it. And this is the only thing I've ever been in trouble with in my whole life, actually. So,
Thank you.
yep.
All right, well, thanks, Nadia.
Hi, Mr. Streck. Would you
Yes.
be able to explain a little bit about the total amount of restitution? So I know that it was $36,000, but based on the complaints, it indicated that there was $276,000 that was stolen. And just to explain, whether there was any paid back, whether prior to your conviction, whether you happen to know if there was any insurance coverage, as to, I guess, the difference between that amount that's listed in the complaints and the reports, and the amount that you were ordered by the court to pay.
Right. That total amount was, in my opinion, was just really ridiculous, because I don't know how they could have come up with that much. They were just throwing everything on there because they weren't really sure how much it was. But the court, I guess, decided on the 36,000 because that's what they felt that I could afford at the time. It was like $1,000 a month for 3 years. But the total loads of feed that were sent out without payment was, I think it was around 22,000. But so that's how they come up with the 36,000. I don't know how they come up with 200 and some thousand. Really, I don't.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, and I also need to introduce John McVicker, Reverend John McVicker, who's a pastor in Milwaukee, who is also a member of the pardon board, joining us. All right, well, thanks, Mr. Streck, for appearing before us. As you heard me say at the beginning, you'll hear from us in about a month, give or take, in terms of the outcome of the process, but I appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend. So thank you.
Okay, there was one other thing I was supposed to talk about, was that I've been full-time employed ever since the conviction. I've never had a lapse of employment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an active member of the Spirit of Joy Lutheran Church here in Arizona. And I've been happily remarried since 2014. And I've never had any problem with any violence or had any anger management issues or anything like that. So
great. Well, thanks.
So,
no,
yep.
Appreciate that information, and thank you, and have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
All right, next we will go to Ulfrika. So you've had the benefit of seeing how this works. So if you wouldn't mind just unmuting yourself, Ms. Talley, and then we'll proceed.
Hello. I just wanted to share this. I was having issues with logging in.
You're just fine
so
now.
I missed the beginning of what you were stating.
I'll give you a quick version, my standard spiel. So you have 5 to 7 minutes to make a statement to us in accordance, similar to what we sent you a letter in terms of the topics, but please be concise in terms of how you ended up with your felony conviction, what happened with your sentence, and why you believe you've earned a chance to receive a pardon. And then I'll open it up for questions.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eureka Latrice Talley. I am a former resident from the Beverly area of Chicago, Illinois. I was an 8.5-year-old young child whom was a victim of rape, domestic abuse, physically, sexually, mentally, emotionally, and verbally for several years. I come from a religious Christian background where I was taught that you don't speak of your family things, that it stays in your home, no matter what. So because of these things, I had now become a 17-year-old, angry, homeless, dropout, runaway, who was a heartless, numb, loveless person dealing with mental stability, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder, broken, lost, an unstable person who at a young age now had became a mother to these beautiful children whom had no clue of what they had in their mother at that time. But I was definitely sure of the mother that I needed to be and was going to be to these two beautiful children that didn't ask to be here. Having my children, I truly do believe, from my viewpoint, definitely saved my life. So because of this, I decided that my time in Chicago, Illinois has come to an end. So to give myself and my children a better chance at life and living, that's when in July 2nd of 2001, I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where in August of 2001, I met the love of my life, which is Gregory D. Pearson. And on June 2nd, 2002, we got married. The time of me committing my crime, it was November, if I'm not mistaken, it was probably November the 24th of 2003. It was during the Thanksgiving holiday season. I was invited over to a dinner at a friend's house of mine. We ate, we laughed, we drank. Me personally, I mixed my liquor, light and dark. It was something that came on the TV, and it was something that I was so passionate about, and it spoke of a commercial about AIDS and HIV. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in the field of what I do today, which is private and home health care. Greg had made a statement about if he wished to ever have received AIDS, it would have come from a woman like me. I'm Greg's first Black relationship. So because of that statement, I was very, very offended, highly upset. So I decided to take the kids and go home. Once we made it home, an argument ensued, kind of tussling back and forth. And because of that, I grabbed a kitchen knife and Greg was stabbed in the chest. Behind that, I was finally arrested and I served 8 days in jail. And also I was given, I want to say maybe 3 years of probation. I was on the blow machine. So I did the 8 years, the 8 days in jail. I was on the blow machine. And during probation, I paid my fees. I never dropped dirty. I was never violated or written up. My UAs was always clean. What I decided to do during this whole process is I seek counseling through AODA. I received anger management. And from that time on, I'm still in counseling. I'm still in counseling and I see a therapist once or twice a week, depending on that person's time. I'm still with my husband, Greg. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I just enrolled in last year at MATC to achieve my HSED. I'm waiting on transcripts to come in from Illinois so that they'll know what type of classes to put me in. I haven't recommitted since this crime, which took place 19 years ago. I've learned to love me, to forgive me, to set the young girl free. I'm happy, I'm doing okay. I've been able to maintain stable housing. I do have a job through GT Independence. I take care of Greg. I've been in private and home health care for 30 plus years. That's my life, that's my love, that's my passion. I made a horrible mistake. I've forgiven myself for that. Greg has forgiven me. Why it happened, I have no clue. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I just know that I was taught to just fight and keep quiet about things. And I had no clue that what I've experienced as a child, that had full control of me, which caused me to be a very angry, mean, disrespectful, drunk, who had no cares, no worries about nothing. I was basically a menace to society and to myself. I hated who I was at that time, and to hurt someone who I love and was in love with, that showed me what true love wasn't the right thing to do. So I take full accountability and responsibility for the crime that has been committed. And I've lived with that for 19, almost 20 years. And now in my life, I'm a happy, loving, fun, outgoing person who wear her heart on her sleeve and take care of everybody. And I'm also taking care of me. I will be baptized next month. And I am a member of New Covenant Church of Christ. My pastor is Pastor Monroe. I'm just taking it one day at a time.
Thanks, Ms. Talley. I'll open up for questions from the board. Jeff?
So, good morning, Ms. Talley. I want to say a few things that I got from your application and just have you tell me that they're correct or not. One is that this stabbing, as you put it, because you just said he got stabbed, but in reality, there's a struggle where you felt a little bit threatened. And you did pick up the knife as you described, but in that struggle, Mr. Pearson received this kind of small stab wound to his chest, correct?
Yes.
And you were the one that convinced him to go to the hospital to get it treated right afterwards. He didn't want to go. Is that right?
No, he didn't want to go. He was afraid for myself. And also he has a fear of hospitals.
Okay. So you convinced him to go get help.
Yes. And I also lied about the whole situation because I didn't know what to do.
All right. And you have a daughter who has special needs, and Greg Pearson, the victim, and you've named him. So you're still with him, and he also has a medical issue that requires you to take care of him and your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, she's fully grown now, but how can I put it? She's 32 with 3 children, but even though physically she's 32, she still is delayed in a lot of different fields. So not only do I leave from where I resided on the east side, I still ride over to the west side in a really, really bad area, but it's okay. Greg has Parkinson's disease and kidney disease. The love and respect that I have for him, I wouldn't dare place him in a home or for someone else to take care of him. I felt like that was my job. And plus is what I love to do.
And lastly, I don't know if you know this, but the judge who you appeared in front of has written a letter in support of your pardon application.
Yes, I do.
Mhm.
I do, and I'm surprised because I've reached out and been trying to get my background cleared, and I first started doing that maybe back in 2009. And at that time, I think that's when you would have to go to like the governor's mansion inside of the Capitol. So it was always stamp the NAS, stamp the NAS, stamp the NAB. But I've always had hope and faith that I'll be heard one day.
Thank you.
Yes. You're
Nadia?
welcome.
Good morning, ma'am. Do you still go to counseling and to AODA counseling as well?
I completed all the steps that I took as far as for anger management, the counseling, the AODA. I enrolled myself in that. So it was through a gateway program for the AODA. And I had completed that program and was discharged from the program. I can't remember when, because when I tried to get that information with my case being as old as it was, I guess they was called it was purge or something like that due to the time limit. So I guess a lot of things was the files that they were keeping was terminated files. But my counseling, I still go to weekly, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on when that doctor have time or not to schedule me.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Ms. Talley, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us
Thank
in about
you.
a month from today's date, give or take. Usually it's a little bit longer in terms of the outcome of the process, but hope you have a good weekend.
You as well. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, next we'll be hearing from Brad Dormandy. All right, Brad, you've seen how this works, so I will hand things over. So please be concise and short with a 5-minute statement, and then I'll open up for questions.
Board members. So to start, I was in 2003. I was charged with possession of THC. While I was going through the legal process in 2003, I was charged with felony bail jumping in 2004. After I was at the tavern one night and walking home, I walked into somebody's apartment, and while I don't remember it, obviously that's not something I would ever do in a normal state of mind. I'm not saying that alcohol makes it all right, but it definitely was a contributing factor to it. Once the police arrived, I don't remember the incident, but according to the police report, once they arrived, I believe I punched the man, and then I took off running from the police, at which time I was arrested and charged with felony bail jumping. I was sentenced to 3 years probation and 6 months in jail as a condition. I completed my probation in 2007. After which I enrolled in college. I got a degree in renewable energy from Mid-State Technical College in 2012. I've been gainfully employed at a couple different jobs. I was with Liberty Tire for a lot of years, 7 years, from 2007 to 2014, after which I took a job with an outfit out of Appleton called Landfill Reduction and Recycling as the operations manager. In 2018, that business closed down due to the market, some market fluctuations, at which time Liberty Tire actually reached back out to me. They were starting a new facility. Now they offered me we talked about a position as general manager of their new Mosinee facility they were starting. So that's where I'm currently employed at. The reason I'm seeking a pardon is the two big ones are professional, my career. I know when applying for jobs, people look. I know that can technically be considered discrimination, but once you look, there's no forgetting about it, And the other one is just for my family. My wife has a professional job that does require her to report to her superiors that, she is married to a felon, which obviously can't be easy, potentially could affect her career as well. And also just my kids. I got two young daughters. And a few years back, one of the things, my daughters was in Girl Scouts. It's like they were asking for chaperones, but you have to be able to pass a background check for that. So I wasn't able to help out that way. And there's been other instances of stuff like that in life too, where, they say background check required. Well, it's pretty much a waste of time to apply for positions when it says that. I've applied for many and you just never hear from them. So that's why I'm hoping that the board will recommend my pardon to Governor Evers.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Questions from the board? All right. Well, thanks for appearing before us, Mr. Dormady. You'll hear from us in about a month, give or take, but hope you have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. All right. Next, we will be hearing from Karen Thomas. So, Ms. Thomas, thanks for waiting patiently. Now's the opportunity to speak. You've seen how this goes, so please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. So in 1995, I had committed a crime with forgery. The car was stolen. It was a Boston Store credit card, and I committed to forge the name of the person and bought over $700 worth of merchandise. And then I didn't want to do it anymore, but at the time I had a boyfriend that I was afraid of, and he caused me to go and get other people and another lady and two other guys decided to go to Mayfair, to the Boston Store Mayfair, and purchase more. But that's when we got caught, and we tried to leave and the police chased us for a little while. We ended up in jail. So I got convicted of forgery, 3 years probation. I completed all our restitution. I got my associate's degree in criminal justice at Bryan and Stratton in 2013. I got my bachelor's in human services in 2016. And now I'm currently in the master's program for mental health, for clinical mental health. And I have one daughter, which is 30 years old, no grandchildren. I currently take care of my cognitively disabled nephew. He's 30 years old. He's been living with me since he was 15. This has been a really hold to my life because I wanted to venture out into more things. I wanted to become a probation and parole officer, but because I have a felony, I couldn't go that route. So I chose the ventures of social services, and I worked in nonprofit most of the time. I started as a CNA actually, and then I did that for about 20 years. So I'm always a caring person. I'm always loving. I always want to provide. I always want to help people. That is who I am. That's my character. But it's been hard for me to venture out in more opportunities because when I go into professional businesses or places that I would love to work, I choose not to because they may see me and all I feel is they see is a big red F on my forehead that I'm a felon. So in a lot of places, I know I'm qualified for it, but I know because I am a felon that I wouldn't get the job. So it's deterred me in a lot of different ways. I started my own nonprofit. I am a substance abuse counselor, and I plan to open up a little clinic to help those that's struggling with substance abuse. And I would like to open up a group home, but because I'm a felon, I know that wouldn't be possible. It'd be a hard time trying to go before the board and get zoned and licensed for those things like that. So yeah, this will open up my life. This will allowed me to have so many different opportunities. It's been such a hassle. It has never really stopped me from, excelling in life or doing the things that I wanted to do, but not what I really wanted to do. I'm thankful for this opportunity. It's been a very long time coming for me to have this opportunity and to give my life back because I feel like I've been on bondage for over 20 years, and this will be a welcoming opportunity for me to move forward with my life.
Thanks, Ms. Thomas. Questions from the board? Jeff?
Hey, good morning, Ms. Thomas.
morning.
And I'll acknowledge at the start that these records are not always accurate, but according to the records we've been given from the Department of Corrections, at the point that you were discharged from probation, you still owed $250 in restitution to Boston Store. Does that sound right to you?
When I was on probation, they allowed me, they successfully discharged me, so they didn't say I owed anything.
Right. They don't have to, they can discharge you even though you still owe restitution. So you were originally ordered to pay about a little over $300 in restitution. Did you make that kind of payment, or did you just pay what your probation agent told you to, and then they discharged you and that was the end of it?
Yeah, I did everything my probation officer told me to do.
If it turns out, Ms. Thomas, that you still owe $250 in restitution to a defunct company, and there was somebody to pay, would you be able to pay that to satisfy that obligation?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then let's see, the other, I think that might have been the only question I had. I don't know if you know this, because sometimes when applicants just ask for people to send things in or notify people, but in this case, both the judge is supporting your application and the victim supports your request for for a pardon. And you have several other very nice letters of support. I don't know if you knew all that, but
The victim has supported me.
yes.
Oh my God, I never knew that.
Yeah. So it's always nice to see those letters from victims, especially as you pointed out, this was 20 some years ago, 27 years ago that this happened, and this victim is even today, or within the last year, took the time to indicate her support for your pardon for you. So those are all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Oh, thanks, Ms. Thomas, for appearing before us. I know this isn't an easy forum to do so, but appreciate your time and your candor with us, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Morgan Stone. All right, Mr. Stone, you've seen how this works, so I will hand things right over to you. So please proceed.
I am here in front of the board asking for a pardon for 2 crimes, actually. The short version of it is my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mother was always away working a lot, and I was 17 in high school, and I would have friends over and we would drink and smoke marijuana. Eventually the school and the police department found out about it, and they came to the house and arrested me. I was charged with maintaining a drug trafficking place. I received, I believe it was 2.5 years probation, about 14 months or so into the probation. I went to a friend's apartment, and he was a friend from high school, and he had a firearm under the couch, and he had pulled it out to show everyone, and the gun was out for maybe a second, and it discharged and struck me in the stomach. I was in a medically induced coma for about 2 weeks. When I awoke from the coma, I found out I was charged with felony possession of a firearm for being in the apartment with a weapon. It was a long recovery. I had to learn to walk again, and I was given probation for that charge, partially because of my medical condition. Since then, I have maintained full employment. I started off as a parts delivery driver, and I've worked my way up to a department manager. I lived with my grandmother for about 3 years, taking care of her. She lived to be 100, actually. And the reason I am seeking the pardon is I would like to improve my life and go to school and eventually work for the Department of Natural Resources. And they do not accept people with felony convictions for that. I'd also like to do more volunteer work, especially with my nieces and nephews. Their schools do not allow people with felonies to volunteer for them. And I basically just try to be a better person and a productive member of society.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone, can you talk a little bit about the felon in possession of a firearm? Just because, you know, what you just said doesn't line up necessarily with what the criminal complaint, and that's not to say the criminal complaint is always accurate, but, you know, according to the criminal complaint, the victim who is charged for having shot you, you know, I'll just read this verbatim, exactly what the detective wrote. You know, he said that, you know, the victim who was charged with having shot Mr. Stone at the location, they were each handling the victim's guns before the shooting. The victim stated that the defendant had a loaded AR-10 rifle on his lap, and they were talking about, quote, shooting black people when Mr. Mitchum picked up his SKS rifle and shot you in the stomach.
Yeah, that's not 100% accurate. We were discussing a movie that we were watching, and it was basically a conversation about the movie. And it was a conversation saying, I can't believe they're saying that in the movie. Like, that is absolutely crazy that they would even put that in a movie. The firearm they're talking about, it was in the corner. I don't recall seeing it, but the detective said it was in plain view. And that's the charge, that I was handling a firearm. But
were you interviewed at all? Or, I mean, just can you walk me through the timeline? You know, this event occurred, and then you said, you know, really long recovery and difficult recovery and coma. Was it, you know, rushed to the hospital and then you were induced and then you were interviewed afterwards? Or, yeah, how did that work out?
I was interviewed in that first 2 weeks, but I do not remember it. I was very medicated from the surgeries.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, honestly, I do not remember the interview at all.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Jeff?
Good morning, Mr. Stone. So are you saying you never handled a firearm?
I never handled a firearm.
And yet you pled guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm?
I did. My understanding of it was you have to be aware of where you are, and you can't even be in an apartment or a house with someone with a firearm.
Did you have a lawyer?
I did. But I mean, I was on probation for the original drug house charge, and that was basically my best option for not going to jail for a very long time, was to plead guilty and receive probation. Was the deal that we made with the district attorney and the judge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Stone, for appearing before us. And as you've heard me say a couple of times, you'll hear from us in about a month, give or take, but hope you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll hear from Latoya Curtis. So Ms. Curtis, let's see. You wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on? There we go.
Okay. Hi.
Well, you've seen this, so I'll hand things right over to you.
Hi, my name is Latoya Curtis. I was convicted of theft, false reputation, fraudulent claim, tax credit in 2014. I served 9 months, and I was released on electronic monitoring. I received 2 years of supervised probation. To tell you about what happened, I owned an in-home daycare. I thought that I was actually helping the young ladies that were struggling, but in reality, I wasn't. I never went before I opened my business. I never had any knowledge about how to run a business or anything like that. So what I was doing and allowing the girls to use my EIN number to falsely claim revenue on their taxes was fraudulent. And at first I didn't understand it, but now as I've gotten older, I do understand what I did was wrong. You know, I could have helped the girls in a different way than other than that. So I took the crime and I pled everything. I owe the state of Wisconsin almost 54,000. Mine has been a long run because I end up having to do a chapter 7 because I was getting garnished, and then I did a chapter 13, which I was paying $680 biweekly towards the chapter 13, and that included all of my taxes that I owe with the restitution. But then it became a little too much because it went up, and I think it went up to like $740. So that would have been almost $1,600, and I still had to live. So I made arrangements with the state, but I did get the state down from, like I said, the 54. As of today, I owe them 14,000. I've been at my job. They stood by me when I was going through the process, Linden Grove. I've been with them. It's been a rocky road. I want to apply for freighter, but when I went to the interview, all my credentials was there. They wanted me part of the team. But when they seen that I had a felon, it was a no-go, you know, for me to wait and come back at another time, because freighter will allow me to work and help me pay for college. And if I became the RN, I would be able to pay off more of my debt and what I owe quicker, because I still have the IRS that I pay for as well. And I got a payment arrangements with them. I pay them $250 as well. So that's about it.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Kurz. Ms. Kurz, can you just describe what happened a little bit more? And I know this was a while ago, but, you know, both in your application now, you said that you simply gave, you know,
I allowed
your
my EIN number.
Yeah, but, you know, in the complaint, again, complaints aren't always accurate, but I mean, it's a little bit more sophisticated than that, that you were working with this accountant and you were referring these people over to them. And so just for example, you know, you were referring some employees over to this accountant, and then you would cut a check to the employees. And presumably this accountant would file a tax return, claim more money that's entitled, and would pocket the difference between what you wrote the check to and what they received from, you know, the state or the feds.
No.
Does that ring any bells? Or
yeah, it rings bell. The accountant, Mr. Ellis, that they're referring to, he had nothing to do with what I was doing. People went to him to do the taxes. They wanted him, but I had no idea what he was doing. I pled for what I was doing with my business. I allowed young ladies to claim income with my EIN number. They never went to Mr. Ellis. They were investigating Mr. Ellis, and because he did my business taxes, it was assumed that I was working with him, but that was never the case. It was the young lady that was charged with me, which was Denitra Aldridge, that was falsifying the taxes for the ladies that I allowed to do my EIN number.
Okay. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Ms. Curtis, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in a few weeks from the date of today's hearing on the outcome, but hope you have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, next we'll hear from Mortez Evans. So Mr. Evans, thanks for waiting patiently. Please
Thank
proceed.
you. You can hear me good?
Yep, just fine. Go ahead.
Thank you guys for this opportunity. Been a long while since I was trying to get this done. But 1998, I got hit with a felony for non-payment of child support. Back in the time, I was supposed to be paying through the system, but I was giving her money because I was a mechanic and I was working with the family, working on cars and doing body work and stuff like that. But I was giving money to her, and then I thought maybe she was, it was okay. I think I believe I was 36 years old at the time. But didn't work out well. So I ended up getting hit with a felony, doing things I should have been giving it to the court. So when she got mad at me and said that I wasn't paying her child support, go to court, she said I wasn't giving nothing. And so that will happen. So I paid everything off. I don't owe child support, nothing. I paid her. I asked her to forgive me since I gave my life to the Lord. Just trying to clear the table everything I did back when I was younger. But I didn't serve no prison time. I think I did 4 years of probation. Never been in trouble except this. So I just want to try to get a pardon to clear my name. In the years, job turned me down because I had a felony, and they turned me down. And just kept moving on. And so I really need a felony. I'm married to a beautiful wife for 12 years, got 12 grandkids. So she's a center director. We talk about opening a business, me working with my hand, being mechanical inclined. It will be helpful to the business. I serve here as a maintenance supervisor here at the Jewish Family Services. I serve as a deacon at a Greater New Birth Church up under the leadership of R.J. Burt. So me doing a lot of man stuff. We do a lot of man ministry. We deal with a lot of homeless people. I just don't want to get caught up because I know you don't supposed to be a felony. Being a felon, you don't supposed to be around people with guns. You know, I just don't want nobody to make my name bad. So, traveling wise, with the wife, I can't do because of the felony. I just asked the governor to give me favor over that and go from there.
Thanks, Mr. Evans. What is your relationship like with Tiffany?
Great. Oh, great. Great. We great. Me and Tiffany have a great relationship. Me and my daughter, Caress. I only have 2 girls.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a great relationship. Oh, yeah.
Good. Well, congratulations on 12 grandchildren.
They love their pawpaw, but you know, just want to do some. I just really just want to do some stuff that my wife want to do, and me being a felony, we can't do.
Yeah,
it,
understood.
You know? I can't be around the kids.
Yep, understood. Any other questions from the board? Thanks, Mr. Evans, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in about a month, but hope you have a good weekend.
Okay, I truly thank you guys. Have a
Thank you.
Day. Yep.
All right, Matthew Barsock won't be appearing before us. He had a last-minute work conflict, so we will be jumping right to our final applicant of the 8:30 to 10 a.m. session, Angela Rands. So Ms. Rands, it looks like you're unmuted. If you wouldn't mind turning your camera on. All right, there we go. Well, you've seen how this works, Ms. Rands. So if you could just, start by explaining how you ended up with your felony conviction for issuing worthless checks and what's happened since then and why you think you've earned the chance to receive a pardon. So please proceed.
Well, back in 2011, 2010, 2011, I was on disability. And I also had 3 children, and I got married to a man that refused to have a job. So we ended up writing out a bunch of bad checks, basically to live for groceries and whatnot. I ended up divorcing him finally. And then I met another man, and we've been married ever since later 2012. We got married in 2013, and it's been going good. We've improved our lives a lot. I got off of disability. I do respite care for disabled people at my house on the weekends. We're actually looking to start foster care, but I can't do that with the felony. we're opening our own taxi company for special needs people. In Chippewa, we had a program called PALS. It's almost like a special needs get together. They have dances, they watch movies, stuff like that. The person that ran that retired and they're looking for somebody else to run that, which me being a felon, I can't do that. My husband, he's a big hunter. So we would like to be able to have guns for hunting. There's just many reasons why I need this felony taken care of. When I first got charged with it, it didn't really faze me because I was on disability and I wasn't in the best spot in my life. So I didn't think being a felon would really affect me at all. So I just took it and went with it.
Great, thanks, Ms. Rands. Questions from the board? Jeff?
Can you, sorry, I might have been muted there. Can you tell me, Ms. Rands, what Angels of Chippewa Valley does?
The PALS
Oh,
program.
that's the PALS that you talked about? Okay.
Yep.
All right, then I understand that. And it looks like from the records we received that you paid all the restitution from the worthless checks that you wrote. Did you make all those payments or did your now ex-husband pay some of those as well?
My ex-husband paid some of it. What happened was, at first when they did the court thing, I only had restitution of like $1,000. But then they took all the judgments from the individual places and made them restitution in 2011. So it was like almost $7,000. And I actually just finished paying all of that off between July and August of this year when we purchased our house.
How much of the 7,000 do you think you paid versus your ex-husband?
I probably
Roughly.
paid about 6,000 of that.
Okay.
He was ordered in our divorce to pay some, like half of it. But in order to get him to pay, I kept having to file contempt papers on him and bringing him back into court, and I just got sick and tired of it.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Oh, no, go ahead, Ms. Rands.
The Angels of the Chippewa Valley that he was asking about, it's a Facebook group, and we help, like if there's single moms out there or families that need food or diapers or formula, stuff like that. We get that for them. That's what the Angels of the Chippewa Valley is. That's separate from PALS.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rands, could you talk a little bit about, I know this was a long time ago, but 22 years ago in 2000, you were convicted of a misdemeanor child neglect. Can you just walk me through what happened?
My son, he was ADHD. He had oppositional defiant disorder. He had a lot of behavior issues when he was young. And we were leaving my mom's house to go back to my house, which was only like 2 blocks away. And he used to ride his bike back and forth. So he knew where both houses were. And he refused to get in the car. So I told him, I said, I'm going home. You need to come home. Well, I went home and he didn't come home. And I got worried and I called the cops because he wasn't at my mom's house. He didn't go back into my mom's house and he didn't come home. Well, he ended up going to my grandma's house, which was about a block north of my mom's house.
Okay. And how old, I'm sorry, how old was he at the time?
He was, I believe he was almost 7.
Okay. I guess my last question for you, Ms. Rands, is, you had, kind of a period of time of difficulty with, that, and it sounds like a lot of it was relationship based, but what kind of happened that you turned things around after this felony? I mean, because you had stuff between 2000 and 2011 and then it stopped. So what changed?
Just, I wasn't happy with how my life was going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I knew in my mind I wasn't ever going to amount to anything if I kept going the way I was going. And I needed to show my kids there's more to life than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother and his wife had a special needs kid. She had semi-lobar holoprosencephaly, which is her brain didn't separate into different hemispheres.
Huh.
So she was tube fed and on oxygen. She had hundreds of seizures a day. She lived for 3 years, which they didn't expect. I guess taking care of her made me realize that that's what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of special needs people out there, and they get put in the wrong homes, homes that aren't suited for them, and they don't get the best care.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls I have now, they're 25-year-old twins. I have them here every weekend. I actually have to pick them up today, and I have them until Sunday. We have a lot of fun. You know, I enjoy hanging out with them.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Rans. Any other questions from the board? Well, thanks for appearing before us and sharing your story. You'll hear from us in about a month, give or take, but appreciate your time and hope you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are got done a little bit early, so we're gonna actually break for about the next 23 minutes, give or take. We'll reappear shortly before 10 a.m. just because we do have to stick to the open meeting notice. Yeah, Jeff, to do.
Yeah, can we go into closed session for just a couple of minutes before we break?
Yeah, we can go into closed session.
Either now or before we start the next session. I don't care which one, but whatever's easier.
We're only, yeah, we can go into closed session. So make a motion, go in closed session pursuant to 19.85 1A, D, and F for purposes of deliberations, considering a case before the board, considering specific applications and financial, medical, social, and personal histories, and we will go in open session afterwards. Is there a second?
Second.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we'll go into, I'll put folks into the waiting room. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. We had a last second emergency thing to discuss, but we are good now. We're back in open session. We'll be in open session until our noon closed session after we get done with this second morning session, but we will reconvene at 10 a.m. Or at 10 a.m. in order to go to our next group of people. So thanks for bearing with us. All right, folks, we'll get started here in just a minute.
Good morning.
Morning. All right, I'll start with my introduction. So welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Nelson and I'm Governor Evers' Chief Legal Counsel and also have the privilege of serving as chair of the Pardon Advisory Board. Thank you for joining us. This is our 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. session. We are going to be hearing from folks in the order that they're listed on the open meeting notice, starting with Nicosia King, then Nicole, then Derek, Jennifer, John, Jonathan, Paul, and then Gary. When it is your turn to speak, please unmute yourself and turn your camera on so we can hear from you. Until it's your turn to speak, please turn off your camera and mute yourself so we can maintain audio and visual quality. We are live streaming this on both YouTube and C-SPAN, or not C-SPAN, on Wisconsin Eye, which is Wisconsin's version of C-SPAN. When it's your turn to speak, we sent you a letter with some instructions, so please follow those instructions. In short, we want to hear from you a concise statement from you, 5 to 7 minutes at the very most, in terms of how you ended up with your felony conviction or convictions. And we want specifics, not just that I was convicted, but what conduct you engaged in order to be convicted. We want to hear how your sentence went and what happened afterwards that you believe has earned you the right to receive a pardon or a chance to receive a pardon. After you're done speaking, feel free to jump off. Everyone does. You can go about enjoying the rest of your day. After we hear from this morning's applicants, we'll be going in closed session or to discuss specific applications and making recommendations to the governor. If you receive majority support from the board members present, we have 4 board members today, so that would mean that you have 3 out of 4 votes. Your application will be forwarded to the governor. If you don't receive majority support, your application will be denied and you'll receive a letter from the Pardon Advisory Board stating as such, and you'll be able to reapply in 18 months from the date of from the date of the letter. If your application does go to Governor Evers, he'll either grant you a pardon or he'll deny it. Same as before, if he denies it, you'll receive a letter from the board stating as such, and you'll be able to reapply in 18 months from the day of the letter. And if you're pardoned, you'll receive that in the mail. The process usually takes about a month from today's date, but it may be a little bit longer. Sometimes it can take a few extra weeks, but you have waited the longest is to be here today in terms of a wait. I'm going to do a quick round of introductions and then we'll jump right into things. So in addition to myself on the board, we have Judge Jeff Kremers. Jeff is a retired circuit court judge from Milwaukee County and former chief judge. We have Nadia Perez-Reyes, who is a former public defender and currently the Assistant Deputy Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. And last but not least, we have Reverend John McVicker, who is a pastor in Milwaukee. And with that, we will start. Let me make sure that we have Ms. King. Yep, there we go. Oh, Ms. King, you're our first individual. So you heard me say, please share your story with us and then I'll open it up for questions.
Absolutely. Hello, my name is Nicosia King and I appreciate the Pardon Advisory Board and the governor for allowing me this time today. In 2001, when I was 18, I was party to a crime, including 2 other individuals, one being an old friend of mine and one being a friend of my brother. My brother friend approached me about needing someone to cash checks for him. I remember one of my girlfriends working at a check cashing place, so I linked the 2 of them together. Somehow things didn't turn out right with them and trusting amongst the both. So my girlfriend asked if I would bring the checks because she didn't trust the guy and she wanted to ensure she would get paid. I did agree, and I was aware that they were not ours and it was breaking the law. I taken 3 checks in a total amount of $23.06 to my girlfriends for check cashing for them. We were all caught in the selfish act and all charged. I was charged with 3 counts of felony, 5 years probation, 90 days corrections, and restitution owed. The end results, I paid my restitution in full, wrote a letter of apologies to both the check cashers and office that suffered the loss. I served 1 day in CCC. I did House of Correction Hoover for about 90 days on work release. I was released early on probation for about 2.5 years because of my consistent employment behavior and paid dues and my paid supervision fees. What I accomplished since I made the error and bad choice in my life. For one, I've been waiting on this day for as long as I can only imagine. I was employed with a company called Check and Go in 2000 to 2009 as a store manager. I actually was employed during the time I was facing charges, and they became aware of my background. After about several years of employment, because the entire company had to do a random background check screen, for one, I feared of losing my job after the screening and didn't know what to expect. Once my background check did come back, we had to have a meeting to discuss the circumstances I now face. And because of my history, dedication, tenureship, and all the impact I made with the company, they allowed me to keep my job, and the background didn't affect me, so I was still employed. I started doing hair as an apprentice at 18 in an actual salon. After picking up craft from an early age of 12, I purchased my first real estate at the age of 19 in 2002. My second in 2003, and my third in 2004. I maintained my employment with Check and Go, and I started enhancing my skills and knowledge in many different areas of my life. I knew I wanted more and to go into business for myself. So in 2004, I spent my savings, remodeled my home to start a childcare business. I went all the way out, construction to my basement, supplies, toys, farms, and was denied for my criminal background. I could have allowed that one denial to stop me from moving forward in life, but I didn't. So I had to think of what I can do to help me. So I applied for a pardon because I just knew my past can hinder my future. So I applied in 2006, 2007, and 2009, all to be told to reapply in 18 months. And they were only approving a small percentage for extraordinary circumstances that set applicants apart. So in the late 2008, going into 2009, I made a plan and I set some goals, and this is what all happened. I became a treatment foster parent in 2009, where I cared for special behavioral teens. I knew with Check and Go, my time was up. So I learned so much with great coaching, development, and leadership, but the time was up for me to take my own journey. There was no more growth for me, and the chances of growing within the company was slim to none. In 2009, I applied for an adult family home license to get my opportunity to be in entrepreneurship one more try. What was on my background, and I was tempted to use like a family member to help me out, but I was faith driven. I knew that if this was for me, God would allow it to happen. So I applied. I worked hard daily on my application, supported material, the forms I needed. So I submitted my application. Once my application was received, my background was red flagged again and up for the review by the state. About a couple of weeks later, I woke up getting ready for work, and I said to myself, my time is up. I placed in my notice of resignation, and I just walked out on faith. I left work to do my usual company bank runs, and my phone rang. It was the Department of State calling me saying that they was approving my background and to continue with my application process. I was grateful and thankful, and knowing at the time that I had to give all thanks to God, my parents, and everyone, that I would not let them down. So in 2009, Golden Path Senior Living was starting my first business as an adult family home. I started cosmetology school in 2010 and graduated in 2011, received my manager's license in 2012. I started my second company in 2013, Golden Path Home Care, a home care business. Purchased my fourth home in 2014 for my family, started GPAC in 2015 and Golden Path Services in 2016, both home care businesses. Started GP Trucking, a dump truck company in 2016 with my husband, hauling for services, jobs like for the FISERV, received my DBE certification in trucking in 2019. Started Golden Path Home Improvement and Golden Path Properties in 2016, where we have done for jobs for housing, snow removal, and more. Purchased rehabs, city homes in 2016, starting Golden Path Kids, a uniform and candy store for my kids in 2017. J. Nicole Cosmetics, a cosmetic business after my daughter in 2019. Started Golden Path Services 2 in 19. My second location in Racine. Started Euphoria Wellness Boutique in 2019, a CBD retailer. Started Go to Path in Texas and in Arizona, both in 2019 and 20. Started Organic Farms, Aquaponics in Oklahoma, where I'm becoming a farmer. GP Lift Rise, a transportation company in 2021. GP After Dark, I do a podcast where I talk about family life and business. And I'm a co-founder of Lady Legacies in 2021, where we do consulting, helping those start businesses and create and build generational wealth. I wrote my first book this year called My Life, His Story, and Our Journey. In the history for what I've done for the community and my team members and ongoing, I have gave stocks of my businesses, gifted businesses, health insurances, 401k, dental, vision, and many more benefits. Employed hundreds of people. I currently have up to 300 employees to date. Care for those with disability, fed the homeless. My longest client been with me for over 10 years. My longest employee have been with me for over 8 years. I have conducted coat drives, book bags, supply giveaways, annual turkey drives, and have done ham drives, annual bonuses and gifts. I help my members with food, furniture, bills, you name it. Created growth within my organizations where I have employed employees making salaries over 80K and where I have given bonuses up to 10K. I donate for scholarship funds to the Milwaukee Finance Scholarships for the past 4 years, the Delta Seniority, small nonprofit businesses. I am a member of WISPA, Wisconsin Personal Services Association. I'm a member of the African American Chamber of Commerce, and I'm currently being onboarded as a board member. I was nominated in 2019 for 40 Under 40 in the Milwaukee Business Journal. 2019, I graduated from Scale Up Milwaukee. 2020 and 2021, I was featured in Milwaukee Magazine of Women of Distinction. After this year, I am Faces of Milwaukee featured in a Milwaukee Magazine for entrepreneurs. And now my why. I am Nicosia King, a mother of 9 with 4 biological children and 5 stepchildren. I have been married for almost 12 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have learned from my past mistakes. I paid my dues and I created a heck of a lifestyle during these 20 plus years. And I will never be comfortable with my record being tied to my name. Why? I can be an example of a second chance if granted. I know how it feels and wants and needs a second chances, so I give them daily. From the plumber I hire, those that wrong me, I had given second chances to from continuous help. Second chances to my employees, those that needs employment after spending 10 plus years in prison and needing opportunities. I feel people can learn from me and understand immature mistakes can happen. I want others to know they have hope for their dreams and not to allow their past to hinder and determine their future. Why? My children and family mean the world to me, and I want them to see a mother that wrote history for them, our ancestors and our relatives, that they can achieve what I have. Why? I am responsible for many lives daily and people count and depend on me. My community depend on me. And when people look me up, I don't want them seeing Nicosia from 2001 with a felony, but look at me today. When you look up me, Google me, and you'll see the best version of me. Why? All I have is my name, my character that I have worked so hard for. And I'm dedicated to my family and my career. I'm hardworking, honest, passionate about my purpose in life. I impact lives daily, and I feel like I'm the why. And I thank you guys for this opportunity. And I ask, please consider my story for a pardon.
Thanks, Ms. King. Questions from the board? Well, you're very thorough on both your application and your presentation, Ms. King. So thank you. And you'll be hearing from us in about a month in terms of the outcome of the process, but hope you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Nicole Tingle. Nicole?
Hi,
There
good
you are.
morning.
Good morning. Well, you've seen how this works, so the next 5 minutes or so are yours, so please proceed.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Nicole. I am so humbled and grateful for this opportunity today, that a pardon board even exists who's willing to hear my story. There's no way of sugarcoating what I did during this 1 year of my life that led to my arrest. I was very selfish and naive. My behavior during that year, the damage I caused, and the people who suffered because of my choices have haunted me for the last 18 years. Yeah, the guilt and the shame, but also consequences, which I deserved. This is a multifaceted story, and I thank you in advance for reading my application in full, which is more information than I can provide today. I'll do my best to cover as much as I can, and I apologize if I almost hit my 10-minute max. In 2005, January, I was arrested for being possession of a gun in Orange County during a traffic stop. That arrest led to charges of being party to a crime of false identity theft, forgery, and theft by false representation in amounts greater than $10,000, which included 2 motorcycles, a Jeep, and other crimes back in Madison. I quickly pled guilty and was sentenced for 3 felonies plus the gun charge, of which was dropped to a misdemeanor and later expunged here in California. For the crimes in Wisconsin, I was sentenced to 8 months jail and 7 years probation. I served time in California for the gun charge first, then without release. I was extradited through several jails until finally the forgery and theft crimes. I'm grateful to have met Detective Linsmeyer during this time. He was and is somebody I respect very much. He upheld justice while also showing genuine kindness. After serving the full jail time that included Huber towards the end, I was allowed to immediately California and pay off the $24,000. I've worked very hard to pay the restitution off as quickly as I could, and I was discharged early from probation in October 2008. I have not been in any other trouble since. I'm not here to be a victim. I know that feeling sorry for playing the victim card would never get me anywhere. However, a little backstory is needed. These were huge crimes that seemed to come out of nowhere for someone who had never been in trouble before or since this one. From 12 years on, I was raised and homeschooled in a very strict fundamentalist church. I had no friends outside the church. I graduated and there were many strict, rigid rules, too many to list, that we conformed to for much of my childhood. Only later finding out after graduating that we weren't fully accepted by the community because my mom had my stepdad passed away on a camping trip and my biological dad was not around due to drugs. My mom did her best, but she struggled with addiction in the background of this culture. While most girls in the church didn't attend college or work outside the home, our financial situation required me to work and go to school. I held 2 jobs, I paid some rent, and I went to school full-time for nursing prerequisites. My mom tried to keep me while still heavily drinking herself. I was not even allowed to have a male friend. I felt I didn't fit in at home or church. I had just gotten accepted into the RN program as one of the youngest students. Tension and frustration finally came to a head at home due to what I viewed as my mother's hypocrisy about adhering to her own strict rules. My motivation to stick it out and stay at home until I had finished nursing went immediately to the back burner. I was desperate to get away from the broken reality of life as I knew it, to find my place in life, who I was, and where I fit in. Unfortunately, it was the perfect storm. I was incredibly unsophisticated, confused. I felt misunderstood. I was angry. As soon as I cry, my time goes up. So I'm trying not to cry. Bear with me. I had to leave, but I didn't have a game plan. I remember feeling numb while I was packed up my room in an hour, and then I called weeks prior. His name was Aaron West. I barely knew him, but because I was still very confused about what rules or path I should follow, I figured the right thing to do was to marry him if I was going to live with him. And this was my first mistake. 8 hours later, we were married in a drive-through chapel in Vegas. I soon found out he was nothing like I thought, and I was not prepared to be on my own. I was a very young 21-year-old. I wondered what life rules were meant to follow or not to follow, since the rules I knew were very inconsistent. Unfortunately, this mindset left me wide open to getting sucked up into any crowd, including the wrong crowd. First, Aaron convinced me to use my credit for an apartment and 2 cars, of which was soon introduced to hard drugs and experienced criminal. I was determined to fix Aaron and to prove my mom and the church wrong, that I could make it on my own. And not surprisingly, I dropped out of nursing school with the intention of going back as soon as I was on my feet. Rather than getting on my feet, my life literally spiraled out of control over the next several months. Please understand that though these crimes in Madison were large, they were not crimes that I premeditated on, let alone came up with. But there, a new town with no one but Aaron, entangled in the unthinkable. I felt like I did not have much of a choice, so I did nothing to stop them. I participated aiding in them, even doing some small ones with Aaron by my side. I didn't understand what identity theft was until we came to Madison for those few months, and Aaron suggested them for a means of income. We'd gotten jobs when we first arrived and lost them due to the drug use. And one day Aaron said, "Watch this," and pretended to be someone else and walked out of the store with food, clothes, tools, etc. I was in shock, and he said, "Don't worry, no one gets hurt. These large companies just write it off." Obviously, the small crimes escalated, and a lot of this is a blur. I'm not sharing this to evade responsibility at all, but rather just to offer perspective where my head was at when these things happened. How I wish I understood the severity of what we were doing. When Aaron wanted to flee Madison because he was scared of being arrested, I started to understand that severity. When we were caught as a responsible, I fully understand the severity, and I can hardly fathom what I was callously thinking and doing at that time. By the time we got arrested, it had been less than a year since I met him. If I had the courage, I think I could have left him in the beginning, but towards the end, he pulled out a gun on me when I would try to leave. And yes, the gun I got charged with was Aaron's, but I was too afraid of him to let him take the blame. After sentencing and serving time in Madison, I came back to California. Money, car, driver's license, bank account. I had only a few clothes. I was 22 and I was up against a lot, but the jail time was exactly what I needed. Becoming sober and having time to think about all that had happened was the turning point of being able to grasp the reality of the past year. I was able to see where I went wrong and how I rebelled the wrong way. I was sober, sorry, and determined to right my wrongs as best I could and to never repeat a single mistake that I had made. I never spoke to or saw Aaron again, and I filed for divorce as soon as I could. I left that whole chapter and everyone in it behind. In addition to starting over with the felonies on my background, I had to simultaneously pay off the $24,000. I rode a bike to a waitressing job, paid it off ahead of time, and was allowed to get off of probation. Because of my background, I could no longer go into nursing. Though devastated, I pivoted and truly tried to accomplish as many positive things in my life in the last 18 years. Since then, I received an associate degree. I got a bachelor's degree in business management. I went to school for skincare. I started my own business. And again, I pivoted during COVID when I had to close business to homeschool my kids. During that time at home, I started my own brand of skincare, which has grown over the last few years with a lot of hard work. I met the love of my life. We've been married for 13 years this October. We have two sons, ages 10 and 8. They attend a small Montessori charter school 4 days a week, and I homeschool them on Fridays. I've done some volunteering through a local church, participated in Christian organizations such as Operation Christmas Child and Faith Orphanage. We donate resources to those around us when we can. We invited my younger brother to live with us for 5 years to help him get on his feet. We have a core of amazing friends and family that we count on and who truly count on us. And while all that looks good on paper, there have been huge struggles that have become in between every one of those hurdles. I've had many roadblocks attempting to go back to nursing school. I've retaken science courses over and over again to keep my prerequisites expiring in hopes of one day getting a pardon and being allowed to become a nurse, which would provide stable income for my family, as well as to be able to help and heal others. I cannot go on field trips with my kids, which breaks my heart. Other hurdles include pleading for licensing, getting denied for business loans, liability insurance, pet adoption, even surrogacy, not to mention applying for almost any decent job to match my education level. I have done the very best I could with my circumstances, but even with the degrees in business endeavors, I could not support my family if something happens to my husband, which I know is a real reality considering I saw my stepdad pass away on a family camping, leaving my alone. I'm almost done. There is a spiritual side to all of this as well. I am a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. It took up until last year to finally feel forgiven for what I had done with the help from a Christian counselor. In addition to hoping for a pardon for nursing and practical issues, a pardon would bring this crazy story to a full circle this side of allowing me to share and help others who need to hear that there is hope beyond mistakes. Though I regret my mistakes, God has used them to keep me humble, compassionate, and empathetic to those around me. Sorry.
Hope you're doing just fine, Nicole.
If my story can help even one person, I would be so thankful. One day when my boys hear about my past, I want them to know that even though their mom messed up before they were born, she was not defined by those mistakes. I am asking for a pardon, not because I'm innocent or perfect, not because I didn't deserve the hardship that has come from what I did, but because I believe I have done the best I could to show how sorry I am, that this chapter in my life does not represent who I am today, and that if granted how much more I could do with my own life, how much more I could do for my family, community, and those around me if given the opportunity. Thank you, and sorry for all the crying.
No need to apologize. Any questions from the board? All right, well, you're very thorough, so I know it's not an easy form, but thanks for being here today and being candid with your story. And you'll hear from us in about a month in terms of the outcome of today's process, but hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Derek Teacher. All right. There you go, Derek. Well, you've seen how this works. So the next 5 minutes are yours. So please share your story with us, and then I'll open up for questions.
All right. First, I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunity. My name is Derek, and I am 48 years old. When I was 19, I committed burglary and forgery to not strangers, but people that were friends' parents that befriended and trusted in me. As a result, I was sentenced to 90 days jail and 3 years probation with a withheld sentence. Now, at 19 years old, being with, everybody says the wrong crowd, ultimately, I believe you're still responsible for the decisions that you make. But that's what I was. I didn't have rules, and I did what everybody else was doing. Nobody had steady employment. Everybody was partying, having fun. So looking for easy money, and I came across that, and that's what I did. Due to a lack of good choices while on probation, my probation was extended. I did not make my monthly payments continually. So once the 3 years was up, it was extended due to everything needs to be taken care of. As a result of the continued bad judgment and not working steady, I continued to fall downward. In December of 97, I reoffended while on probation. And I reoffended with the same forgery. And again, it was a friend's parents that had befriended me and gave me their trust, which ultimately I abolished. I ended up being revoked and sentenced to 4 years in prison and 8 years stayed sentence for the reoffense. And that time, I was also convicted for felony non-support in June of 98. Now, running with the crowd I was with, doing all the stuff I was doing, my eyes were never really truly open to the trouble I was in until I pulled up in front of the prison. After 1 year into my sentence, I was transferred to a minimum security prison where I was able to obtain a job in society and start paying back my victims and my child support. In February of 2000, I was granted parole and released. On my own, I struggled to make ends meet, but continued to try moving forward. I was on my own. I reached out for help with my parents, and tough love is what was handed down and ultimately paid off, in my opinion. I met my wife in May of 2001, who stood by me and helped me become who I am today. We've had a son together who's now 19 years old, and I was granted an early discharge from parole because I had all the restitution paid due to my wife. She stood behind me. She kept me in line. We got everything paid off early. And because I was on parole for a felony, I believe is what they said, I had to serve a minimum of 1 year. So once that was done, I was discharged off paper completely. We bought our first home in April of 2004, our second home 2 years later, and our forever home 12 years after that. Since my release, I have maintained constant employment in cabinetry in the Green Bay area. I basically have been self-taught. Everything I do in woodworking. I'm currently a service tech for one of the leading custom cabinet manufacturers in the area. In this position, I am trusted with several work provided tools, a company vehicle, and the ability to work unsupervised on a day-to-day basis. I make my own schedule daily by calling builders and calling homeowners, setting up appointments, meeting with them individually, or arranging for entrance into these homes on my own. Now the difficult part is, why do I think I should receive a pardon? Well, times have changed, and I am a grandpa. And if one of those grandkids would like me to go on a field trip, I would love to be able to. Other than that, I would like to be able to gun hunt. I am a bow hunter, and to broaden hunting to include other species and to use a gun would be nice. Lastly, just to be a bit selfish, I would like it. I am at a point in life where I'm very happy with where I am and who I am. With all that I have had to overcome, I do not need it. I do not need a pardon. But it's just that one last thing left. And that's what I would like to do, is to check that box. So with that, I'll close and thank you guys for your time and your consideration.
Thanks, Derek. Questions from the board? Derek, I just have one question. What's your relationship like with Cody?
My relationship with Cody is very strained. That is the child that I was charged with the felony non-support. At one point, my wife and I, go back and look here, when we were in our first home, so date wise, I don't know. His mom was having difficulty with him, and I was asked to step in, and we took custody of him into our home, and that turned into a major avalanche of events. He was really introduced into drugs with his mother and her live-in boyfriend. They were taken to their dealers and, for lack of better term, pimped out. And Cody struggles. Cody is troubled developmentally because of the drugs at such a young age. When we brought him into our home, it was very difficult. The programming, it was nonstop, always something. And Eventually, he became a risk to the children in our home
Mhm.
and was removed from our home. And I have talked to him here and there. He asked for help. I gave him help. I won't give him money. I give him food. I bring him groceries.
Mhm.
And it continues to escalate. I want more. I want more. And when I told him no, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Hasn't talked to me since.
I'm sorry to hear that, Derek. Well, thanks for appearing before us. I know this isn't an easy forum to do so, but I appreciate your candor with us, and you'll find out about the outcome of today's process in about a month, give or take, but hope you have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, next. We will be hearing from Jennifer Westling. Or sorry, LaGrew. So Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. Oops. Sorry, Jennifer, I accidentally muted you. There we go. All right, there we go. Well, Jennifer, you've seen how this works. So, next 5 minutes are yours to share your story. Then I'll open up for questions. So please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, thank you for listening to me today and taking this time. In March of 1998, I was drinking with my boyfriend, Daniel LaGrew, and another friend of ours. And I was 19 at the time, and we were bored and decided to go look in cars for money to steal. And Daniel, we also went into 2 garages. Daniel went in first, and I just went in to tell him, we got to get out of here. You're taking too long. And I didn't take anything out of the garages, but I did out of the cars. And at the plea agreement, the DA's assistant told me that they would not have pursued putting a felony conviction on me because of my short criminal history, except for the fact that they wanted to put a felony on Daniel because of his extensive criminal history. And that it was only fair that they put one on me also because we had done the same thing. And I decided not to fight it, just take the plea agreement. So since then, I've been working as a caregiver for mentally handicapped people for the past 6 years. And I volunteer as a leader in our church's Scout program now. And also I've done other community service and volunteer work at other churches we've attended. I also completed a counseling program while I was on probation. And since then, I've had counseling with my pastor and also a licensed professional counselor. And I also got a divorce from Daniel last year. So my name is now Jennifer Westling, not LaGrew. And pardon would really help me in pursuing my goals of getting my real estate salesperson license in the state of Missouri. So I can pursue my financial goals. It would also be good to get my Second Amendment rights restored so I can defend myself and my children in the case of a home invasion, or and also my boys would like to pursue hunting, and I would like to enjoy that with them and do it together as a family. After my burglary conviction, I quit drinking in March of 1998 and have not touched it since. I am hoping to receive a pardon because I've really turned my life around. I decided that I was really wrong to rebel against my parents, and I wanted to go back to the way that I was raised by them and start living the right way. And it's really important to me to be a good example to my children and to be an honest, upstanding citizen. And I'm deeply ashamed of my criminal history and wish I could go back and change it. But thank you for your time and for listening.
Thanks, Ms. Westling. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks for appearing before us, Jennifer. You'll hear from us in about a month, but hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next we'll be hearing from John Ruvzowski. So John, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. You've seen how this works, so please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the board allowing me to come to this presentation and to let you know my case. My offense was the interception and the unauthorized descrambling of satellite transmissions. This was back in the late 80s when the big satellite dish industry was going and everything started scrambling. Stupidly, I went and decided to figure out how to unscramble mine. Once I learned how to do that, I sold it to customers, which obviously was wrong. I pled guilty in court. I was given 2 years probation. I was fined $5,000 for my involvement. On probation, I did exactly what my probation officer told me to do. I paid the fine early. I was released from probation. I believe it was 1.5 years into, so I didn't have to do the whole 2 years. Since that time, I've been self-employed in both the computer and the electronics industry. I taught myself to program computers. I taught myself to repair electronic equipment. I started an internet company in 1995 that did very well. It was acquired in 2001. During the internet company that I ran, I had multiple police officers getting their internet from us. Everything was dial-up back then. And I got to know a couple of them, and they were at the point they needed help tracking down specific crimes that were being committed on the internet. So I was able to help them, and I gladly did. I know that I was instrumental in helping get some child pornographers taken care of. There was people selling illegal equipment and stolen equipment on eBay. I was able to help track them down with access to the routers. A person can do that type of thing. So I helped them a lot. And I also helped a couple times at the state level. I believe it was child pornography that was going on that I helped track down with that as well. I did apply for a pardon back in 2002, I believe it was. I had letters of recommendation from the assistant DA who prosecuted my case, from the lead investigator who put together my case, from one of the deputy sheriffs who I worked with on the internet crimes, from State Representative Donald Hasenorl, who I had come to know, and from our village mayor who wanted me to sit in office here at our small village. I also submitted those same letters of recommendation with this application. And additionally, there's a letter of recommendation from the pastors at the church that my wife of 40 years and myself attend and have been attending for quite a while. I serve on the security team there. She serves on the welcome team. We both do everything we can to help our community through our church. It's been about 30 years since the offense I committed. I've had no problems since then, no offenses, no crimes. I don't even think I got a traffic ticket since then. And my passion is to work with children. I've come to where there's a lot of children in so much need, and I'd like to be a big brother. I'd like to work in any way I can to help them. I can't do that without a pardon. I'd also like to sit in a public office, a local public office. I've been asked too many times. Again, I cannot do that without a pardon. So them are the reasons that I'm here trying to get this. It would allow me to work with children. It allowed me to serve my community more. That's it, basically. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to present. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thanks, John. Any questions from the board? All right, well, you're getting off easy. So thanks for appearing before us, John. Like I've told the other applicants, you'll hear from us in about a month from today's hearing, but hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next we will be hearing from Jonathan Verser. So Jonathan, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on.
I've unmuted myself. I don't know how to turn the camera on.
There's a little icon right next to the muting icon, actually. It's a little camera that you can just touch.
Okay. Am I on?
Looks like your camera is covered, but there you go. You have your camera on. It might be covered, though. Are you on a laptop?
Yes, sir. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sometimes people have like the little...
Am I on now?
Nope. No, sometimes people have like the little thing that covers the camera, like a sticker or sometimes a little slidey thing. And it looks like that's on.
Is it possible you can go to the next person now? I'll try it on my
Oh, no,
phone.
we'll go ahead. While we like seeing people, people call in too. So we'll go ahead, Jonathan. So you've heard how this goes in terms of sharing your story for about the first 5 minutes here of your presentation. So let us know about how you ended up with your felony conviction and what you've done since then. So please go ahead.
In 1996, I was charged with failure to support. I thought it was a misdemeanor. I was paying child support at the time. I was paying $1,300 per paycheck, which came out to roughly about $2,600, a little more per month. In 1999, I accepted a job in Chicago, Illinois, and I had already recently moved my family to Georgia. Well, when I was commuting from Chicago to Georgia every weekend, like I would work all week in Chicago, and then I would one weekend drive down to Georgia. Next weekend I would fly down, and that became cumbersome over the time that I was doing that. So I moved back to Georgia, and in the interim, I took another job down in Georgia. There was a 4-week lapse in the child support, which I made up. I paid off those 4 weeks that I missed. But at the time, the child's mother, she brought me back to court. So when I came back to court, the judge, she sentenced me to 4 years penitentiary. I served 2 years in the penitentiary. I thought the sentence was excessive. I had a wage assignment in place. I was paying. At the time that I went to jail, I was at a $500 balance for my arrears. I spent 2 years in there. The whole time I was there, I worked. I was at a minimum security in Madison, actually right outside of Pittsburgh. I worked the whole time that I was there. I paid child support the whole time that I was there, while at the same time maintaining communication with my wife and my daughter. Upon release, I had the interstate, and I came back down to Georgia, and I've worked ever since then. I've worked in social services. I've worked with at-risk youth. I've managed to raise a awesome daughter who she's 30. She just recently celebrated her 32nd birthday. She's had 6 years ex-military. I'm ex-military myself. So, I mean, just the connections between us are just phenomenal. I haven't committed any crimes. I haven't done anything. My wife and I have been married for the past 32 years. This August will be 33 years. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I have never done drugs. I don't really need this pardon because I've never let this conviction hold me back in anything I've wanted to do. I'm closing in on my bachelor's degree in human services. I work in the human services field. At this time, I work at a hospital. I do a call center where I bring in, I read referrals that come into the hospital. I do insurance verifications. I bring patients into the hospital. So it's a revenue driven position, and my employers trust me that I will do a good job. Again, I don't need this pardon because again, I've never let anything stop me. I'm bullheaded. I'm stubborn. I won't let anything get in my way. I want this because I want to show my daughter that I can do this, and that this conviction does not define who I am or who I've ever been in my life, because my daughter doesn't know anything about me but daddy. My wife doesn't know anything about me but husband, because that's what I've always been. I thank you for your time. I thank you for hearing me out. And if you could see fit to at least give my application some consideration, that's all I can ask for. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Mercer, for appearing before us. Like you've heard me say a couple of times, you'll hear from us in about a month in terms of the outcome of the process, but hope you have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll be hearing from Paul Vance. Paul, looks like you're all set, so please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Earth Day.
Yeah.
Also, thanks everybody for the hard work you guys put in, as well as Governor Evers. 1997, 25 years ago, I was working at a retail store. One of the individuals that I was hanging around with, very less than desirable, started to joke that he was in the warehouse and I was security. Between the two, we could take whatever we wanted. And it was a joke for a week or two, 3, and then it turned into a month of joking. And then it got a little bit more serious. There was pressure to do this. And I said, you know what, let's do it. Some items were placed in a box, they were picked up and then split up. So I was charged with a felony theft from a business setting. I thought the people that I was hanging around with were good people. Clearly they weren't. I was sentenced to 60 days in Huber. My first night in jail, I was a grown man hiding under a blanket, crying, because it wasn't me. And I guess what happened came to light. I apologize.
No, you're doing just fine.
I was enrolled in police science. That was my goal. And I realized it wasn't going to happen. I did my 60 days in Huber. I got out. No problems. As soon as I got out, I joined an organization called the Gang Crime Diversion Task Force. I met an individual by the name of Maurice Horton who took me on, and we were an alternative to incarceration program for primarily inner city youth, mainly court ordered. Some were parentally volunteered. The judge would order him to our class, and it wasn't a scared straight program per se, but it was more, we did take him into the prison. We did essentially change criminal behaviors with these individuals. I literally had hundreds of kids come through my class. I was a topic facilitator. I still to this day run into these kids who thank me for the work I did helping them change their life. One really wanted to write a recommendation letter, but he wasn't able to get it in time to you guys. I did break contact. The minute I got out, I knew I broke contact with all those individuals. I didn't care anything about them or where they were up until just a few weeks ago, just in case anyone during this meeting asked. I did look up to see where most of those individuals are. And 2 of them are still incarcerated in prison, and 1 is deceased from what I'm gathered was gang violence. 2010, my grandma had a stroke. My neighbors called me. I didn't know what to do. So it was then I decided I can't be a police officer, so I'm going to join the fire service. I went to school, became an emergency medical technician, worked on a local fire department, volunteer fire department for just over 8 years. Married my high school sweetheart. We have a 13-year-old little girl, sorry, who is my world. She just got her black belt in karate, so it's pretty big to me. And never reoffended. Never. I got one speeding ticket since then. And I'm trying to make it quick. I actually have on the top of my note says, "Make it quick. You talk too much." The reality of having a record, regardless of what people say, it will haunt you. One of the things we did teach the kids in a gang diversion class was that if you even like, I got a 60-day sentence, it's not a 60-day sentence. Mine is a 25-year sentence because it's still affecting me. The reason I want a pardon is multiple reasons. One, it's now not only affecting me, it affects my daughter. I wanted to go on field trips with her. She's got her 8th grade. Excuse me. She has her field trip to Washington coming up in the end of May, and I can't go with her as a chaperone. I'd like to continue my medical career as a paramedic. Unfortunately, the state has gotten a much more strict background check. And with a felony, I'm told that due to the fact that paramedics do have can push narcotics, that the odds of getting that with a felony are slim to none. My family would like to visit Canada. I'm not sure why, but they want to see it. So, and when we retire, my wife and I would like to move to Florida. And I'd like to, as silly as it sounds, I'd like to be the conductor on a train at Disney. And I can't do that with a background. And really, this is the last piece of the puzzle for me. I've worked so hard to be a good person, and I really feel like I did. And again, thank everybody for your time.
All right, thanks, Paul. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Paul, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in the not too distant future, but hope you have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. And let me see, our last applicant is Gary Schultz. So Gary.
He's with me at Terry Newsberger at my office.
Oh, great.
I'm clicking on the video and it says you cannot start your video. Oh, I now has asked you. Okay. Got it.
There we go. All right.
There we go. Here, I'm just here as his, you want to say advisor, but more as a friend, and have helped him through the process.
Great.
So he will do everything himself.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, Gary, thanks for appearing before us. You've seen how this works, so please proceed.
Hi there. My name is Gary Schultz. I just turned 42 last week. I have this. If you can't hear me, I'm sorry. I can try to talk louder, but I got this mask on. I got a heart transplant February 7th.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of I got to have it on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I got to go back to Mayo and Rochester.
No. We can hear you just fine. Don't worry about it.
And well, I'm going to start out. I was convicted of a burglary charge, felony, back in February 11th of 2000. And it was a deferred acceptance, commit no other crimes. I also was convicted of criminal damage, a misdemeanor, and was given a 1-year probation. I had to serve 5 days in jail. And I had a 60 days jail imposed and stayed charge. With the conditions of the deferred entry with the burglary was to complete probation. And it was my understanding that the felony charge would then be expunged or dismissed. I ended on June 20th of 2001. I got a new charge. I got a new charge of battery, which I was revoked for the pardon. As a result of that charge, my probation was revoked, and I received 60 days in jail. And then I was convicted of the felony, and I had 10 years of prison stayed and imposed. I had to serve 5 years probation. I don't remember for sure, but I believe I received a probationary term to run concurrent with the 5 years of probation for the battery charge. I believe that was 1 year. I will explain the second incident. At that time in my life, I had a lot of stuff going on. My Down syndrome sister had passed away. At that time, my uncle got killed, shot, and it was a murder charge, and they had actually had me as a suspect, and that of it, and it come to find out that it was that he killed a suicide, but it took years later for that to all come out. But I had a lot of pressure, and I was just a young kid, and I turned to alcohol, and that got me into a lot of problems. The burglary charge. I was more or less a party to the crime, but I got charged as a burglary. My buddy and a bunch of other friends showed up with a county truck. They actually stole the county truck from the Taylor County. And at the time, they come to my house, and I didn't know it was actually a county truck. But my buddy with about 5 or 6 girls in it, and half barrel of beer, and that I was 19 and stupid, and I jumped in with and went with them, and we drove around, had a good time or whatever, and then they ended up taking it back that night. And I had to work. I worked on the railroad at the time. I had to work the next day, but I think they ended up taking it 2 or 3 more times after that, and that which I wasn't involved in that, but I was involved with the first original night, and that which I wish I could take back, but I can't obviously. And I know I had that probation for that, which I had an expungement agreement, and I screwed up again. A year later, a little over a year later, I was with some buddies, and we went to a party, and got in a fight with some other guys, and it was just a bad situation. And like I said, I turned to alcohol with everything that was going on in my life, and I don't drink at all to this day, and I haven't drank for a long time. Last 4 years I've had just pretty bad heart issues. So, and that, but and another thing is back then with my sister passing away and my uncle, I tried. My biggest thing was to go into the Marines. I wanted to go into the Marines really bad because my uncle was in the Marines, and I tried to go. I had 2 recruiters wanting me to go into the Marines, and actually, the judge, a Taylor County judge, wouldn't allow me to go into the Marines. He figured that would be a bad fit for me, which the recruiters were kind of shocked, and everybody I've ever talked to is kind of shocked. But so that was another damper. That that was a dream of mine to be in the Marines, and that. But that never happened. So as everything went on, I learned to put all that stuff behind me, and I got a job. I got a job out of town. I think my problem was when I was in town, I would be around my friends and around people that were bad influences on me, and I would drink. So I got a good job, concrete restoration job. I worked all over the United States, and that. I would make good money, and I was gone a lot. I was gone, 300 days a year, and that, and I moved up the ladder pretty quick with what I did. Soon I was a superintendent very, very quickly, And, for the last probably 18 years, I've been a superintendent or a operations manager. Right now I'm director of operations for a pipeline company, and it's just I've done a lot of schooling and classes, to better myself, and I got married in 2007 to my wife Kelly, and she didn't know none of this at the time, and I never wanted to bring any of it up, but it's just been a burden. She knows how much I would like to get rid of it. I have two daughters, 14 and 11, Tatum and Piper, and they're actually really big into hunting right now. My daughter Tatum last year, she actually shot a 13-pointer, and that I would like to take her a little bit. It hinders me, not being able to, or having the pardon, just for that. And like I said, for the last 18 years or so, I've been working out of town, and working out of town, and I'd like to maybe sometime get close to home so I don't have to be out of town anymore, you know what I mean? And to get a good paying job that in the public sector or private sector around home, you got to have an education or something like that. And a lot of jobs that with a pardon you can't get that, and that but I would love to be with going through all this stuff with my heart, nursing or something like that. I live in Ladysmith. We got a hospital right 5 minutes from my house, and that that's something like that, would be great. Would be great. I've had no problems with law enforcement. In the since probably then, I don't even remember I don't even remember a speeding ticket or anything like that. Yeah, the biggest big thing is my kids. My kids ask, they're getting to that age. Well, my 14-year-old daughter, she's at the age where she knows now, but they're like, why don't you ever get your gun license or anything like that for hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just hard to explain. I let my wife kind of handle it and that, and yeah, it's just, go ahead.
I think I'll open up for questions. You're very, very thorough, Gary. So
Okay.
any questions from the board? All right. Well, thanks for appearing before us. Good luck with everything, and hope your visit to Mayo goes well here on forward. But you'll hear from us in about a month from today's hearing, and hope you have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you very much. You too.
Thank you. All right, and with that, I will make a motion to go in closed session for the reasons listed on the open meeting notice, including purposes of deliberations considering case before the board, specific applications, and personal, financial, medical, social, and histories of specific persons. Is there a second?
Second.
Nadia seconded. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we are in close. Then we're going to jump right into things so people can go about hopefully enjoying their weekends a little bit early. We are going to be going through applicants in the order that they are listed on the open meeting notice. So first up will be Trevor, then Lucas, Matthew, Ethelestran, Kevin, Marquise, Kendra, Alan, and Leonard. And so when I call you up, please unmute yourself and turn your camera on. Until it is your turn to be up, please mute yourself and turn your camera off. So we are live streaming this on both Wisconsin Eye, which is Wisconsin's version of C-SPAN, and YouTube. And so I ask that just the board members keep their cameras and microphones on unless it's your turn to speak. Then I'll call you up. You'll have about 5 to 7 minutes to present your story to us. We sent you a letter explaining what we want addressed. In short, we want to hear about how you ended up with your felony conviction. We want specifics, not just I was young and ended up with 2 felonies. There's a little bit of a story there that we want to hear. We also want to hear about what happened afterwards in terms of completing your sentence and what you've done in order to earn the chance to receive a pardon from the governor. After we hear from all the folks today, we will be meeting in closed session as a board, at which time we'll consider your applications. If you receive majority support from the board members present, we have 4 board members today, so that means you have to have 3 votes. Your application will be forwarded to Governor Evers. If you don't receive majority support, your application will be rejected, and you'll receive a denial letter from the board within about a month, give or take, of the date of today's hearing. You'll be able to reapply for a pardon in 18 months from the date of the letter. When Governor Evers receives applications, he'll make a final decision on whether or not to grant a pardon. If he rejects your application at that time, just like if you get rejected by the board, you'll receive a denial letter in about a month from today, and you'll be able to reapply within 18 months of the date of that letter. If Governor Evers decides to grant you a pardon, you'll open up the mail and you'll get a pardon in the mail. After you have appeared before us, feel free to jump off. You do not need to stay on. No one does. Again, go about the rest of your Friday and hopefully your weekend. I'm going to do a quick round of introductions so you know who you're talking to in terms of board members, and then we will jump right into hearing from our first applicant. So in addition to myself, we have Nadia Perez-Reyes. Nadia is with the Department of Children and Families and is a Wisconsin Department of Children and Families and a former public defender. We also have Reverend John McVicker, who's a pastor over in Milwaukee. And we have Judge Jeff Kremer, who's a retired judge from Milwaukee County. And with that, Trevor, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on, now's your opportunity to share your story with us, and then I will open it up for questions. So Trevor, please proceed.
Okay. My name is Trevor Witt. The April, I believe it was, of 2001, I was at a house party drinking, shouldn't have been there. Highly intoxicated. I left the party and I drove, and I spun my tires next to an officer, and I did not stop when he turned his lights on. I kept going. It turned into a chase for about 4 or 5 blocks where I ran into a dead end. I tried to turn around and I ran into him, and that's where I got hung up on I think it was a fence or a log, and I was arrested from there. After some time in jail overnight, I sobered up a little bit and found out what I did, because when it was going on, it was kind of in and out. I was blacking out. I didn't remember all of it, just bits and pieces. It's an awful feeling. I was just disgusted with myself. From there, I was charged with eluding, attempting to elude, criminal damage to property. I caused injury. The officer that I ran into, I believe, hit his nose, and operating while intoxicated. I was convicted of operating while intoxicated and attempting to elude. Attempting to elude was a felony. I received was 45 days, a couple years probation, alcohol assessment and counseling. That all went pretty good. I went through that. No issues there. Finished my probation, paid off my restitution. I did have some community service in there as well. I couldn't find a way to get to it all the time, so I wrote a letter to the judge asking if there was a different way of going about it, and I made a charitable donation in lieu of the hours that I had left, and I finished that up. I wrote an apology letter to the officer that I had ran into. And from there, it's just trying to get my life together. It's been tough it's gotten easier over time, but it's tough to get a job with a felony. It really is. In 2005, I had a daughter, and that's where things really changed for me. It was time to get it together. And from there, I started a business, a drywall business. That went pretty well up until about 2008. And it was a struggle to get work at that point. The economy was rough. I went through quite a few different jobs. It was hard to find a job that paid enough to make a living on when you have a felony on your record, because anywhere you apply, it was just no. Now I'm back in business for myself again. I'm doing good. I've acquired a general contractor's license at the state of Wisconsin. I'm working on trying to build custom homes. But I think the felony on my record's definitely playing a role in that. When I turn in estimates, I think that people are looking me up. You know, they want to know who's going to build their home. So I think that's why I'm not getting a lot of the jobs. I do get some. And then there's my kids. It's awful having this on my record. I'm trying to be a role model for them. I'm doing a really good job, but I don't want them to know what I did. I really don't. At some point, they're going to find out, but it's tough. My son, he talks about hunting all the time. It's not something I'm going to be able to take him to do. As far as things I do in the community, I've been helping out neighbors. I help out at softball games, volleyball games, basketball games. I do everything that I can. It's, you know, that's about it. I'm keeping it together. I'm doing good. It's just, this would be a big help, especially down the road. If something happens, say I got hurt at work and I couldn't do the job that I have now, I have to be able to provide for my family. And obviously I'll have to find something different. And it's tough with that. So.
Great, thanks, Mr. Witt. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks for sharing your story with us. Mr. Witt, like you heard me say at the beginning, you'll hear from us in about a month from today's hearing, but appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend.
All right, thanks, you guys. You have a good weekend too.
Thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Lucas Theens. So Lucas, if you wouldn't mind just turning on your camera and unmuting yourself.
Ready?
All right. Yeah. Oh, hello. You've seen how this works, so please proceed.
Okay, I wrote this down because I'm incredibly nervous right now.
No, that's fine. You're not the first person to say that, so go ahead.
My felony convictions for which I'm seeking a pardon is a burglary, theft, and a criminal damage to property. 2 co-offenders and I entered 2 residences and stole various things, which included firearms. We also vandalized 1 residence pretty good. I've put a lot of thought into my mindset and reasonings at the time of my disgusting actions that day. Let me preface this by saying I grew up with no father figure, not a lot of parental guidance from my mother, and at the age of 15, I started using opiates daily. I had no goals or ambitions to speak of. I understand a lot of people grew up with a lot less fortunate circumstances than me and do not go about doing what I did. The only thing I can truly say about my mindset that day, I had just turned 17. I really don't think I cared about anything. Being a homeowner now, I can put myself into the victim's shoes, and it brings me a great deal of remorse and regret. The day of my crime, my co-offenders and I were apprehended. I waited in the county jail for my sentencing for 5 months. I strictly remember watching people come into jail and leave only to come back a week or 2 later. And I remember thinking to myself that I do not want that to be my future. I received an 18-month prison sentence with an 18 months extended supervision and 7 years of probationary period. I enrolled in the Challenge Incarceration Program, which was a 6-month boot camp where I earned an early release. The day I got out, my grandparents let me live with them, considering my mother got incarcerated while I was incarcerated. My first day out, I got a job at a car wash. From there, I got a job building retaining walls for 6 years. While there, I attended a technical college for heating and air conditioning, got my driver's license. From retaining walls, I went to where I currently work at Dynamic Recycling. It's an electronics recycling plant where I've been for the last 9 years. Since there, I got married in 2015. I bought a house in 2016. I completed my extended supervision with not one incident. Also, my 2 co-offenders did not decide to do anything different with their lives. So I ended up paying the vast majority of our joint restitution, which was around $30,000, which I'm glad to do if I can rectify what I did in any shape or form. I'm seeking this pardon mainly because I feel I have a lot to offer a company if just given a chance. I've applied for countless jobs and I'm very hard pressed to get an interview, which with my background, I don't blame anybody. I would love to pursue the career in the heating and air conditioning field, considering I spent a fair amount of money and time to go to the school. But I don't think a lot of people want to hire somebody to fix people's stuff inside their houses with my background. I currently make a decent living, but it does take a toll on my body, which I know is not sustainable. I'm also seeking a pardon because this is the last piece of my past that follows me. I've ended all contact with any friendships I had prior to my crimes. While I would never be able to forget what I've done and the pain I've caused others, I would love to not be haunted every time I apply for a job and have to check that I am a felon. I will say, just doing the application and filling this out, I am absolutely disgusted with myself every time I think about this, and I guess that's my saying.
Oh, thanks, Lucas. You're very thorough. Did you ever stay in contact with the victims or have any contact with them?
I've seen one, and we have talked, and they're happy I'm doing good. And
yeah, both of them support your pardon application. Any other questions from the board? Jeff?
I have 2 questions. Good afternoon, sir. First one is, do you owe money anymore to anybody, insurance company or anything, or have you?
No, in order to get the mortgage, I paid all that off.
Okay. And then my second question is, normally when I've seen the kind of damage that you guys did to the one house that you vandalized, I mean, you punched holes in the walls, you ran water to cause damage. I'm not trying to make you clearly feel bad about it, but normally when you see that kind of damage, it's become personal and there's some kind of a grudge or some kind of reason for doing that kind of damage to someone's house. Can you give us any insight as to why I mean, it's one thing to go in and burglarize and steal things, but to cause the level of damage, what was going on there? And I know you were 17 at the time, but.
That was actually a classmates of my house, and me and my 2 co-offenders, we did have a problem with the son of the house. I mean, I guess it was just a built up thing over years.
Okay, so there was a connection.
Sorry?
There was
there was a connection.
Okay.
I actually have even rectified, or not rectified. We're in touch now. Like, I have no problems with anybody, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Theens, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in about a month from the outcome of this process. I know it's a long wait just to get here today, and you have to wait just a little bit more. So appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. All right. Next, we will be hearing from Matthew Gunderson. So Matthew, if you wouldn't mind turning on your camera and unmuting yourself.
Let me see. Oh, why is this not doing it? Start my video.
There you go.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Well, you've seen
How
how
you
this
doing?
works. Good. Well, you've seen how this works. So now is your opportunity to share your story with us, Matthew. So please proceed.
Hi, my name is Matthew Gunderson. I'm 36 years old. At the age of 20, I was charged with a party of a crime, theft, movable property. At the time of the theft, I was 19. I helped a friend steal a generator from a construction site. I did serve 1 month of Huber, a work release, 3 years of probation, and I did repay all of my court costs, all of my fines, and anything cost that was related to it. Since this incident, I have maintained a great work ethic. I have no history with my employers. I'm happily married. I have 3 children, and I own my own home. I'm also very involved in my safety department at work. It's been almost 17 years since one bad decision has changed my entire life. I've learned not to be influenced by others and to follow my own moral compass. I have also had no contact with police in the 17 years other than a minor traffic violation, speeding, traffic minor. This event has caused me to miss out on a lot of great events and opportunities in my life. This event has made me very ashamed of myself, and it is something that has hung over my head for a very, very long time, and has caused me to miss out on a lot of great opportunities. I'm looking to remove my felony to prove to my children that anything is possible, and anybody is not defined by one bad mistake in their life. I'm also a huge outdoorsman. My father's a huge outdoorsman. I would like the ability to go hunting with him and do some hunting trips, as now his health is starting to decline, and it's something I would like to get involved with him in. And that's
All right. Thanks, Matthew.
about it.
Matthew, can you just kind of provide me with a little bit of context on just like on your criminal background check? You know, obviously this is your one felony, it's the theft movable property, but there are a couple other incidents, you know, in terms of, and I was hoping you can just provide me, I'll just go through these one at a time. So in, looks like in November 25th of 2004, you had a misdemeanor domestic abuse battery charge. What was happening with that?
That was actually dropped. That was dropped and dismissed, but I did get a disorderly conduct just because we were arguing.
Okay. So who are you arguing with? What was it about?
Oh, at the time it was my girlfriend.
Okay. Is that former girlfriend or now your wife?
Yes,
or?
yes. Wait for her.
Okay. And then it looks like in 2000, well, then you had the felony in 2007, but then jumping ahead to 2012, you had another disorderly conduct. Looks like it might have been a domestic abuse. You had a domestic abuse assessment. What happened? And I know it was not prosecuted, but what was the story with that one?
Same thing, just a fight, and just loud, and the neighbors called, and that was that.
Okay. Was that with the ex-girlfriend or with your current wife?
Yes.
Okay.
No, ex, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I've got nothing. No, sir.
All right. Well, thanks, Matthew, for appearing before us. You heard me say it before, but you'll hear from us in the near future. You don't have to wait too much longer in terms of the outcome of the process, but I appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll be hearing from Athlestrand Wagner. Wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. All right, Mr. Wagner, thanks for waiting. You've seen how this goes, so now's your opportunity to share your story with us, and then I'll open up for questions. So please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Athlestrand Wagner.
I thank you for the Pardon Advisory Board for taking time out today to reviewing and possibly, accepting my pardon. I was charged with failure to comply in 2007. I was served and imposed a stay, and I was given 2 years of probation, where I was offered the work release program, in which I was supposed to stay 2 months in the House of Corrections, but due to overcrowding in the facility, I was given house arrest for those 2 months, which I completed. Also, as part of my conviction, I was told that I had to enroll into a alcohol and drug program, and also take an anger management course, in which I completed all 3 of those. Since this incident has taken place, I've worked on my anger management. I've grown and learned how to evaluate certain situations, think before I react. I learned that de-escalation of situations, where now I can help other people learn and set a good example for how to be a person of good character for my 3 daughters. I've grown a lot, and the skills I've learned around managing my anger has helped me in my career and to be a good father and an example in the community. I work as a CNC operator that I've been doing for the last 25 years. And I recently went back to school to obtain a machine and tooling certification at MATC to further enhance my skills. And a lot of the jobs I do, my employees ask me to train and, act as a lead man on different jobs and situations of that nature. I've raised my kids to be productive members of society and setting a good example for them, and try to show by example what it means to contribute to society by constantly working. I donate to the Hunger Task Force and just present myself as a decent father, and try to let my actions set an example that I believe that have blossomed and flourished on my children. And which I'm proud to say, my oldest daughter is a UW-Madison alum, I'm sorry. My middle daughter is currently in MATC nursing program. And my youngest daughter, after being extended several openings to schools such as LSU, Marquette, UW, Milwaukee, I'm happy to say that in the 2022-23 school year, she will also be attending University of Wisconsin-Madison, as well as my oldest daughter that has graduated and is now working on her PhD at New York State University. But I'm inquiring to receive this pardon as to further my training. I'm waiting on actually enrolling into some training programs with a trucking company that I've reached out to. And if I was given the opportunity to have this pardon removed from my record, it would open up a lot more doorways for not only me, but as well as my family to help my wife so that she can go ahead and pursue her passion of opening a group home. And that way we can, you know, file for grants and possibly maybe small business loans or whatever that this felony may kind of hinder upon those things. And I don't want my past to affect what she's got going on, you know, in pursuing her dreams in her career. And I'm proud to say that I've been with her for 25 years, and I'm happy to say that I've been married to her 10 years as of tomorrow. So I'm a homeowner. I own my own home, and yeah, I'm just thankful and grateful for you guys even taking the time out to even possibly, you know, allow me to have this pardon.
Thanks, Mr. Wagner. Questions from the board? Jeff?
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Wagner.
Good afternoon, sir.
Wagner, I just have a couple of questions about the incident and then a follow-up question about treatment. So as I understand it from reading the application and the reports, you were in your house and somebody called the police about alleging, at least initially, that a woman had been pushed down the stairs. Later, that woman said, no, she hadn't been pushed down the stairs. She'd slipped and fallen or something. But that because the police were there, they wanted to talk to you and you wouldn't come out of the house initially. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
And the woman that was in the house that slipped or fell down the stairs or was pushed down the stairs, whatever happened, is that woman now your wife?
Yes, that was my mother, the mother of my children, that as of 10 years tomorrow, that is my wife. Yes, sir.
So yeah, so eventually then you got married.
Yes,
and my
sir.
other question is, according to what it says in the judgment, you were ordered to undergo domestic violence counseling. You've talked in your application and then here today about going through anger management counseling. Those are two very different programs. Can you tell me which program you went through?
I forgot the name of the program. It was a program that the court appointed me to go to.
Right. Do you know where it was or who the
was
instructor?
on Martin Luther King in Milwaukee. I forgot the name of the program. It was, I know it's in relation to the Fatherhood Initiative program. Okay. So it fit the criteria or the guidelines. I don't know if the verbiage or the writing of what they have printed as far as my stipulations of what the court appointed versus what I'm saying it was.
Yeah, no, you've answered the question. The program you went to, I'm familiar with it. That was a domestic violence program.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
yeah, so that's what they sent me to. It was an excellent program also, and I really, outside of the situation, I did learn a lot in there, and it was a good program whether you were in the situation I'm in or if you just using it for you know, like a self-improvement to build you up as a character person and your morals. It was an excellent program.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, Mr. Wagner, congratulations on your anniversary tomorrow and even more so on the success of your kids. That's quite the accomplishment to have 3 kids go to 3 very good institutions.
Yes.
So you'll hear from us in about a month. Appreciate your time and hope you have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Kevin Winston. So Mr. Winston, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, turning your camera on.
I did unmute myself.
You're unmuted, so I can hear you. There you go. You're all
Okay.
set. Mr. Winston, you've seen how this works, so please proceed with sharing your story with us.
Okay. On August 4th, 1998, I pleaded guilty to possession with the intent to deliver cocaine. I was sentenced to 18 months in prison. While I was incarcerated, I obtained my HSED and worked in the kitchen. 9 months later, I was granted parole and released in May of 1999. It wasn't until 90 days later I reoffended with the same offense of possession with the intent to deliver cocaine. I was sentenced to 30 months with 9 months of parole running consecutive. During my time in prison, I enrolled in a reentry program, which was aimed towards giving inmates vocational skills needed to gain employment, get a house or apartment, and live an honest life. After serving 22 months of my sentence, I was granted parole. Upon release, I gained employment. I was the head baker at Breadsfield Bakery for 8 years. While being employed at Breadsfield, I also studied electricity at MATC. After graduation of my electricity program at MATC, I was offered a job as an electrical apprentice at ABC, who then enrolled me into Waukesha County Technical College, where I completed my 5-year apprenticeship. I then took my state electrical exam and passed to earn my state electrical license. I am currently working on my master's now. Throughout my construction career as an electrician, I've been training many men and women entering the electrical field. I recently hooked up with SDC Foundation to come into their faculty and talk to and give counsel and basic training to individuals looking for employment. My next step in life is to be able to teach electricity at a technical college. I believe granting me a partner would not only open the door for me as to become an electrical instructor, but also clear the path for other employment opportunities. It would not only add testimony and inspiration to those who are in doubt or of living an honest life.
All right, thanks, Mr. Winston. Questions from the board? Mr. Winston, I just have a couple of questions. You talked about this a little bit in your application, but you can just provide me with a little bit of context, and I'll just kind of read through a couple of things on your background check. So I know you talked about this in your application, but fill me in a little bit. So in 1996, you had an arrest for misdemeanor battery. It was domestic abuse related. It was dismissed. And then you also had another arrest in 1996 as well. What was going on there? What was happening with you? What was happening with that relationship?
It was just a bad relationship. My kid's mother, we was kind of going like back and forth, a lot of arguing, and the neighbors would just call the police, and well, they had to take somebody away, and I got taken away pretty much every time.
What's your relationship with her like now?
We got a good relationship. My son is 24 years old now, so we still communicate with each other.
And then fast forward a couple of years, you had 2002, you had another misdemeanor battery. It was dismissed, or there's at least no disposition. Was that with the same individual?
No, that was actually with my ex-wife.
Okay.
It was kind of like the same deal. We was arguing, and neighbors called the police. There was no physical contact, physical
Mhm.
abuse now whatsoever. It was just all verbal.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Jeff?
Yeah, then in 2000, it looks like around 2003 in Milwaukee County, you got a 4th degree sexual assault and you got a year's probation. What was that about?
2003.
It's hard to tell, but I think the way the number that we have given would suggest it was 2003-ish.
No, it was as a juvenile. It was,
I think it was
19,
93.
Was it
93.
93? Oh, okay. What was that about?
Just some touching as me and a girl liked each other. We was in a 8th grade. We was touching each other. She got caught by a friend and it kind of got out there and kind of made it to the teachers. And yeah, I was arrested for that, detained for that. And I was given 9 months in, like, I didn't go to Wales or anything, but it was kind of like a monitoring like system type thing that I did. And that was pretty much it. But
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Winston, for appearing before us. As you've heard me say a couple of times, you'll hear from us in the not too distant future. So hope you have a good day.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, next we'll be hearing from Marquis Kyle. So Marquis.
Marquess Kyles.
Oh, Marquess, my apologies. Marquess, if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on, then please proceed.
Okay, just a little bit nervous.
Oh, don't worry about it. You're not the first, so go ahead.
2013, I was charged with burglary and party to a crime burglary. I allow a guy to bring stolen property into my house, and I was convicted June 2nd of 2014 for that burglary. I was sentenced to 5 months, 2 years probation. Since the completion of the sentence, I did complete AODA. I paid my restitution. I started working right away. I was full-time father to my first child, Mariah Kyles. I've been working there ever since then. I've been a role model to the community, helping out others. I do a lot of landscaping on the side when I'm not working. I have had another daughter, two more daughters. 2017, I had Marley, and last year I had Malia. I do think I should receive a pardon. It's 25 when I caught the charge. My first time ever having any involvement with law enforcement. First time being in trouble. There's a lot of opportunities that came my way that I haven't been able to take on because of being a felon. I do have faith in having to being able to have a family in the future and to be able to protect all 3 of my daughters. And yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Kyles. Can you talk, and you disclose this in your application, but what exactly happened with, it looks like you had that misdemeanor charge for battery in 2016 that was dismissed, and then you had that restraining order in 2017. Can you just, what happened with those? The restraining order sounds like you had a fight with a cousin.
Oh yeah. I had a I was staying with my grandmother. My cousin came over there to check me about the way me and my grandmother had an argument. So my older cousin came over there to check me. He ended up fighting me. So my grandmother put me out, and she put a restraining order on me.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the other charge, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Nope. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
No.
All right. Well, thanks, Mr. Kyles, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in a couple of weeks in terms of the outcome of the process, but appreciate your time and hope you have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Next, we will be hearing from Kendra Ferguson. So Kendra, if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on and unmuting yourself. Kendra, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on. All right, we're gonna jump ahead and
I'm here.
Oh, all right, there we go.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fine. So Kendra, you've seen how this works in terms of you have next 5 or 7 minutes start to share your story with us, and then I'll open it up for questions.
Okay. So my name is Kendra Ferguson. Of course, you guys know I'm 42 years old. I have 3 children, and I am currently, excuse me, in the process of getting custody of my little cousin. My first case was in 2000. It was possession of THC with intent to deliver, party to a crime. Basically what happened was that night me and my kid's father pulled up to his friend's house. My kid's dad sold his friend some weed, and the next thing I know, the police were pulling up. They seen me stuff some in a like a bag in the side console, and so that's why they took me in for party to crime. For that charge, I did 9 months in CCC, which was like the women's correctional, where I got to go home for like childcare and work. My second case was manufacturing and delivering of cocaine in 2004. I was selling for my kid's father. SWAT team bust down the door while me and my kids were there. When I went to court this time, the judge told me if he sees me again, it would be bad for me. For that case, I was given 3.5 years of probation. Not to place blame on anybody, but I was just doing it because my kid's dad wanted me to. And I know that sounds like, you know, I don't know. I know that sounds like weak or like weird, but like really that's why I was doing it, because he wanted me to. Don't get me wrong, I accept responsibility for my part in everything and what I did. And I've also paid the price. My background has affected my life in every single part of my life, from where I live to having a good job. I can't live in the quote unquote good neighborhoods because when they do a background check, it makes it look like I'm this big drug dealer, and I'm not. And so I get denial after denial after denial. And I know it's because of my background. Some people will say it's for other reasons, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, because you know how you can tell when you have something and, you know, face to face, and people will talk to you and you give a good impression and you give a good vibe, but then they go back and look at that background check and it's like, oh, no. So, and that has happened to me a lot. And I will definitely be able to make a better living as well. The opportunities that I missed were endless. As a single Black mom, it's so many opportunities for me here in Milwaukee, and you know, I can't access any of them because of my background. I believe I deserve a pardon because through all of this, I've survived. It's been so hard jumping through all the hoops, and I know it's my fault, but I deserve a second chance too. And yes, I made the same mistake twice, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My goals in life are to show my kids that anything is possible through Jesus Christ, and just to never give up. I'm working my hardest to break generational curses in my family. When I first applied for school, I wanted to be a pharmacy technician. It was then my counselor told me with my background, I should probably look for something else. My life has totally changed. I'm a faithful member of True Love Missionary Baptist Church, where I'm a Sunday school teacher and a choir director. After my last case, I gave my life to the Lord. My life is busy with church work now, like rehearsal and Bible study, General State Baptist Convention, the youth department, and stuff like that. And, you know, I just thank God for this opportunity, and I thank you guys for this opportunity as well.
Great, thanks, Ms. Ferguson. Questions from the board? Jeff.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ms. Ferguson. Ms. Ferguson, have you had any contact with the father of your children since your second case, and what's the nature of that contact?
Well, yeah, we have contact just because he's my kid's father. He went back to jail after that for doing the same thing. I moved to another side of town, but he went back to jail after that. And, you know, at this point, they're big enough. They're 16, 20, and 21. So if they need to contact him, and it's been that way for a while, they have phones, they can contact him. Like I don't have any beef or anything like that. Like if we see each other, it's hey, how you doing? But are we in a relationship? Do I talk to him like that? No, our lives are in two different paths.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Ms. Ferguson, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in terms of the outcome of the process in a couple of weeks, but I appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next we will be hearing from Alan Burden. So Alan, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just fine. Well, you've seen how this works, so go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to me today. My name is Alan Barrington. I reside in Potosi, Wisconsin with my wife and daughter. In May of 1999, I was 23 years of age that evening. I was out on an ATV, went to a party that evening, had a couple beers, decided to leave that evening, and was, instead of being smart about it and taking the trails back that we used that evening, we decided to take a county road. As we were on that county road, we met a sheriff's car and got going down the road, didn't pay any attention. And it wasn't long that sheriff's car turned around and had the flashing lights coming up behind us. Me at 23 years of age, had a couple beers, got scared. Very, very bad decision, decided to take a side road, went off into a farmer's field down through a hayfield, got to the woods, and pretty much a dead end. Officer caught up with me, arrested me, put me in the car. I regretted it. Ever since, regretted it that night. If I would have just probably pulled over, chances are probably would have just got a ticket and had to have somebody come pick up the ATV, but I made a bad decision to elude the officer. After that evening, went to court, received 5 days in jail, some fines that were paid, and 6 months of lost my license for 6 months. Since the incident that evening, I've regretted it all my life. I've been employed. I've been a truck driver most of my life up until 2018. In 2018, I had a seizure, fell down the stairs, had a seizure. So that ended my trucking career. So for the past 4 years, I've been employed for the past 4 years or since 2018. It's been a challenge after being a truck driver for so many years to find a different career. I've been denied a few jobs that are good paying jobs. In 2017, I got married to my beautiful wife. In 2018, I adopted her child, my daughter now, that I love to death. It was just a bad decision that night. I can't even explain it. I did write an apology to the officer that arrested me that night. So yeah, since everything changed in 2018 with my career, it's been hard trying to find something to provide for my family. I've had a couple, 3 jobs. I'm actually employed right now in a decent company through ADM. And the reason I was asking for this pardon is to, not saying this is going to be my career job, but to open up the opportunity to possibly get a better paying job to provide for my family. And we're looking to maybe go on vacation, and some places we've talked about, I can't even go because of my felony conviction. I don't.
No,
Sorry, I'm nervous.
No, that's fine. I'll open up for questions. Any questions from the board? All right, well, thanks for sharing your story with us, Alan. You've heard me say it before. You'll hear from us in a couple weeks from today's hearing, but this was the longest wait was to get here today. So hope you have a good weekend, and you'll hear from us shortly. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then our final applicant for this morning is Leonard Givens. So Leonard, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and turning your camera on. You've seen how this works a couple of times, but please proceed.
How you doing? My name is Leonard Givens, 96, possession of marijuana with intent to deliver. Coming from some girls' houses and had some marijuana on me, bagged up, and driving home, and got pulled over, and they found the weed on me, and then went to jail. I got sentenced for about 6 months in the House of Correction with work release. Then after that, got out, started looking for work. Been going through numerous jobs. It was kind of hard getting jobs with the felony. So I just was going through temp services and jobs after that. Then after that, got hired at Cargill, did about 15 years at Cargill. And then when I was at Cargill, I started getting into the home improvement and stuff like that. And then got a part-time working at a bar. And then I had a situation at the bar. They picked me up for an investigation of some heroin or something like that. But unfortunately, that didn't stick to me because they dropped everything or whatever. The guy that did it, or who said it, put my name in speculations of providing heroin throughout Milwaukee and all that. Then ever since then, I really went harder with the home improvement, and then working with kids. This Big Dream program, it's like a basketball mentorship helping the kids get to where they want to go. We started that probably like when they was in 6th grade. Now they're in college, a couple of them in college first year. As we speak now, I'm in Georgia with one of the Big Dream kids. He's at Pensacola State. He has a tournament down here in Stone Mountain. So getting him ready because he didn't like the program at Pensacola, so he's trying to relocate. And then as far as me with the pardon, really, I really like to wipe that off my background because at the end of this year, I will be relocating myself to Georgia. And I don't want to leave behind nothing that I did in the past from my previous action when I was younger.
Thanks, Mr. Givens. Questions from the board? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Givens, for appearing before us. You'll hear from us in a few weeks in terms of the outcome of the process, but hope you have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. All right, and with that, that concludes our afternoon session. I'm going to make a motion per with stat 19.851A, D, and F for purpose of deliberations concerning a case before the board, considering specific applications and considering financial, medical, social, and personal histories of specific persons. Is there a second? I will give it to John. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we are in closed session. So I am going to move some folks into the waiting room.